I'm down here. Jay, just show you. I have this. You see that? Just so you guys know, Joe, I'm not going to. Here's my bag, they're all packed. It's like, we get on a motorcycle, we can walk this big and this high on the bike, filled up 2 saddlebags and a little carry-on that sits on top. That's it. Yeah, well, not now. Well, we're taking everything. Make it up all those guys.
Ryan has a lot of gadgets.
I think so. We were started. This is
Right.
it's 9 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. They're trying to get a speaker. They're trying to get a speaker. Yeah. I guess.
Okay, I put the microphone on Jody so we can repeat anything so that the lawyers can hear you.
Say that again.
I put the mic in front of you so that if you repeat something, somebody says that they can't hear. Hopefully they'll be able to hear the room okay. They can hear Jody and should be able to hear you. Try.
Can you hear me here? Can't hear them?
Yes.
Oh, there they are.
Are we ready? Meeting called order. We have new business, I guess. But before we start this, I'd like to comment or two. To the board, for almost 6 years, I've been involved with the fire department, worked with the fire department board of directors. No members of the board have been so against the volunteers as this board. We are supposed to support the department, not make two departments. All this board has done is divide the volunteers in the community. The board is supposed to help with finances, make sure audits are Howard saying, what the hell are you doing? The ones that started the department want to be their own and not run by CAL FIRE plans or by CAL FIRE rules. They were and are a working community member who makes a commitment to protect the community. It saddens me this board is trying to do away with the volunteer fire department and trying to make a district department which I feel is illegal and trying to force a reorganization policy that no members knew about beforehand, not even the board chair. I can no longer listen to the department volunteers and listen to the group that wants their way, and half the time they don't respond to calls and participate in the meetings or activities. Proposal for the district department does not exist. The district department would have to be voted on by the voters of the district, to my knowledge. This proposal is one full-time paid members, not volunteers. Chris Gomes has met with volunteers and agreed to put a proposal to the board, which he didn't do. I asked him to work with the volunteers constructing all this. This comes out and nobody knew about it until this packet came out. The other question I have is why does this need to be done now and not a regular board meeting? 9 o'clock in the morning on a work day. And I look out there and I see mostly people that aren't baling hay or cutting hay. A regular meeting in the evening when the people can attend after work. That's my comments for the day. Now, we'll continue with new business. I hope that you would think that through a little bit. And I guess we'll go ahead with new business.
Chairman Bruce, may I have the floor please for a minute?
No, not right now. No,
Public comment?
Public comments at the end of the meeting.
No.
Public
First
comments.
of all, this agenda does not say special meeting. Nowhere on here does it say anything where it is. This also is smaller than legal type, which this is a legal document, and under California Civil Code, all legal documents must be at least 12-point type. This also violates the ADA because it is not easily available for people that have vision problems. And this meeting was not properly scheduled. If you wanted to have a special meeting, it should have been noted at the last meeting that on today there would be a special meeting. Joe Bruce did not call this meeting. So how did you guys decide to have a meeting today? It's not listed special meeting. So your rules about special meetings don't apply because all it says is agenda. So your public comments will be open to everything, unless you want to violate our First Amendment rights and probably a few other constitutional rights also.
If you're looking for comment, you can proceed. This is a special meeting properly noticed at the board.
It was not properly noticed.
I like to argue.
The agenda nowhere says special meeting on it. Therefore, if it doesn't specifically state it's special, it's not special.
I think you should proceed. In my opinion, it's a properly noticed special meeting. We've heard the comment. And
Excuse me, I have a comment that I wanted to make, and I found out about this Friday morning. I immediately responded to the clerk of the board, who I got an immediate notice that she wasn't going to be in until the 3rd, which is tomorrow. So how can you respond that you want to respond if they're not taking it? So I have a comment that I would like to present.
as in every meeting, the people in the audience can comment on any matter that's on the agenda when the agenda item is
public comments after we do our business.
But the public, obviously, the public has the right to comment on any matter that's on the agenda.
Right.
Exactly.
The public also has the right to make a comment on anything that's not on the agenda.
Well,
At the end, apparently, it's not required in a special meeting, but it's gonna be.
This is not a special meeting.
I'm not gonna argue with it.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
What was your comment on?
do you wanna read it, or do you want me to read it?
Well,
If-
go ahead.
It's on the agenda for today. I have each item that I have.
After each item, that's when you get, after we discuss the item on the agenda, then it opens for public comment, am I right?
Yeah.
Motion.
Well, that's,
After we
that's
make-
what we just said. If someone wants to comment on a matter that's on the agenda, you may comment when that matter is being discussed. And comment is called for.
And that comment's after,
Thank you.
John, that comment is after we, make a motion on it?
No. That comment is before or during the discussion of the discussion item.
Let's stop a minute, okay? The public has a right to first of all, in a special meeting, there's no requirement to have open comment. It's gonna be allowed here. Secondly, as in all meetings, the public has a right to comment on any matter that's on the agenda. And the practice here is to do it when that matter is being discussed. So that covers everything.
So are you saying that, at the last meeting that we had, when you told the board and the board agreed with you that we could not comment at the time, was that an error or not?
So, are we gonna proceed with the?
Yes, we need to move on.
I understand, but he is now saying that we are allowed to discuss during the time you bring up an issue, but yet, a couple weeks ago when you had the meeting, we were not allowed to discuss that until after you voted on it, and then we were allowed to. So I'm just asking that question, was that a mistake last time? Was that an error?
We're at a meeting for today. If you had a problem with the last meeting, you know how to address that.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Okay, we're done discussion regarding the appointment of Rick Gomes for acting chief to permanent chief for the fire protection.
Can you speak up, please? We can't hear you.
I can, I don't hear anything. Discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of Rick Gomes for acting chief to permanent chief of Fall River Fire Protection District. Is there any discussion on that?
That's in, to the board, right? That you're asking the board, not the committee.
Board, yeah.
Yes. I have a discussion. I don't believe I do. Go ahead. I make a motion, okay, go ahead.
Are you committed to doing this, or are you gonna be out of town half the time? That's what I wanna know. Are you gonna communicate with the volunteers? I wanna know that too. If you have any volunteers in this event. And looking out in the crowd, the ones that are here are the ones that aren't paying or doing something else.
I've been committed to doing the training, I've been committed to get all the questions answered. I have met with the officers twice when they asked me to meet with them. So, am I gonna be here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? I don't think there's any chief that would be available if you want an available chief 24 hours a day, then I would say that you probably have to go to a paid department. Okay? So, I'm a volunteer just like anybody else, so that question is kind of a very open question, okay? I have a life as well, okay?
Right.
Okay,
I
but,
agree with you
okay, so,
on that one. But I disagree with a lot of stuff you have here. You're making it like a paid department. What I'm worried about is if we institute all the regulations you got in here, we're gonna wind up like Bernie and Soldier Mountain Fire Department and nobody volunteered.
That's
How are you gonna address that?
That's not the agenda item.
Yes, it is.
It's coming, we have that on.
No, the question was asked about the chief position.
Yeah, I'm asking how you're gonna handle all this.
Well, how am I gonna handle being chief?
No, how are you gonna handle all the requirements that you have in here? For the fire department, did you go through what they have already in place and see how it was working?
You're kind of jumping ahead, Joe, to another agenda item.
Okay, I'm out of order.
Well, he's asking the chief a question about, you're talking about appointing the chief, and he's asking the chief a question about how he's gonna accomplish what he says he's gonna do. That is directly related to appointing him.
I'm trying to find out if I wanna vote for him for chief.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
And has pay been discussed? Because I don't see his,
Joe,
I don't see his pay on the
Joe,
schedule.
you're not been recognized. You wait till you are, please.
You haven't been recognized either by the chief of the board. If you read the Brown Act, only the
Wait.
chairman of the
All right.
board is allowed to
Hold it up.
recognize anybody.
Wait. Mike, you had a comment?
I just said, we've been in a situation where we need a chief. We need somebody that has the experience that Rick Gomes has. He's volunteered to take over and help us through this mess we're in. Now, I know there's some disagreements on the board on how to get through this mess, but it is a mess. And I believe that Rick's got more experience in firefighting, and that if he's allowed to get over there and not have to fight with half of the volunteers to become the chief, then he should have that opportunity. That's,
My worry about it is with all these regulations, and Pat went through it the same as I did, we had regulations and the volunteers. We survived, we did a good job, we were well known throughout the community. Cal Fire.
I agree with you, Joe, I agree with you on that, but
I'm not saying, Mike, is the regulations here is more than the volunteer is gonna wanna do. And that's what the failing of Soldier Mountain was, there's too many regulations.
well, that's kind of the feeling of what's going on with the board here, because we have a huge regulation of the Brown Act to deal with, and as what you can see from the audience here, that no matter what, if we don't put the right middle initial in somebody's name on an agenda item, it's a violation of the Brown Act. And I'm just being hypothetical with that, but it's almost anything we do, I hear it from certain members of the community, and which are volunteers from our department, who put us under the rigors of rules and regulations, and possibly the fire department members need to have some rules and regulations too. I remember years ago, when I first came on this board, I said, we need to get rid of all these 240 hours of training a year, and maybe more volunteers would come to be volunteers. But then we needed all that training so we could go on state operated fires, and that seemed to be more important than getting volunteers for the community. So I think over the time I've been on the board, which I think's been about 7 years, but I'm not sure that could be 6. I've seen it work both ways on us. We've got this problem with the community, portions of the community, portions of the volunteers, thinking that we have to live by the Brown Act. We have never, ever known really what the Brown Act is. I've found out more about the Brown Act in the last 6 months. Sorry to say that, but that's how we operated as a board for years and years and years. And we operated with no rules for the department either. Some rules, but not a lot. So, maybe it's time to set in some rules, find out the ones that don't work, eliminate them. But we need some rules for the department. We do. I don't know if these are the right ones. They're very difficult. I read them, there's a lot of them. I agree with you at a point. We need to be a volunteer fire department. We need to be more consistent with putting out a fire in our community, in our district, and the hell what's going on fires in California, CBS, or whoever they are now, and to make money, because that's what we got into. We got into being a department that was making money, forcing volunteers to do a lot of educational stuff, which is not bad.
I'll correct you on that. We didn't force anybody to volunteer.
No, I didn't say, no, we did, but we forced a lot of people out of the department that would have come and would have been volunteers had they not been told they had 200 hours of training a year, 240 is what I was told. 240 hours of training a year before they could really be a volunteer, so I'm not saying I know this is the exact right way to go, Joe, but I'm thinking we need to move personally in a direction that we have some control and know what's happening, because we have had no control of anything going on for the last 6 months.
We've never had that.
No, we haven't, Joe, you're absolutely right, we never have, and we've had an uprising from a few of the volunteers, and a few of the volunteers fighting the other way. It's not a good thing. I don't see how to get out of it, because nobody in here is gonna go, all right, you guys just run the thing the way you want, we're not gonna worry about the Brown Act, we're not gonna worry about anything. We're gonna be held to the wall on the things we're supposed to do for the community, and I think this is probably one of them.
I agree wholeheartedly. Under the current situation, we can't do anything as a board. The tail's trying to wag the dog, and we need to get control of how this operation is gonna take place.
Follow the
And if we
law.
don't have policies in place for the firemen, and you know me, Joe, I've been the fire chief for years.
We have.
I don't
policies
use
that
it.
volunteer.
We have a minimum amount, but not enough to protect us and our liability and protect the district from future lawsuits like we're currently in.
Which is costing us a small fortune.
Costing the tax.
Rick,
Joe, so your comment about you think I'm trying to go pay department, I'm trying to do this, trying to do this. A fire, any type of fire, doesn't care whether you're a volunteer or whether you're a paid guy. Okay?
Oh, I agree with
The
you.
fire doesn't care, it doesn't care, the fire doesn't burn.
I'm
Okay?
not saying
So,
we can
let me tell you again, I started here in 1996 or 95 as a volunteer. Okay, and then I went to the coast and I was a volunteer there. Yes, did I become career? I did become career, and I promoted my way up 5 times. But my fire district had 5 volunteer districts that bordered us. 5 volunteer districts that we worked closely with, hand in hand with all the time. We ran over 3,000 calls in our district alone, 36,000 residents, 61 square miles. Our university had 3 times more people on it, faculty and students, than your fire district has. And like the city of Eureka had over 30,000 people in it, in 5 stations. Okay, so I don't plan on making this a big department. But I do know how to fight fire. I do know that we need to keep firefighters safe. Those policies, the first few policies right there, is all about firefighter safety, Joe. All about firefighter. No, I have chiefs, I have Cal fire chiefs or chiefs around this area saying, why are your people blowing the calls not dressed, Joe? That puts you at liability. As you guys are governing the taxpayers' dollars. So if one of the guys show up half dressed when we supply them gear and they get hurt, who's on the hook? The taxpayers.
Well, half the volunteers come off the job, they're working, they come to the job, and if it's there, they just show up. They
Okay,
don't
so,
have their gear
so you're
with them.
saying it's okay for them to show up without gear and get hurt?
Well, if you have a chief that tells them where to go and stay away from the danger part of it.
You don't have to have the chief there to do that. Everybody on the fire ground is a safety officer, Joe.
Yeah.
Everybody on the fire ground. Doesn't have to be the city.
Well,
It
I'm not
can
saying
be, it can be the
people are
firefighter.
bad.
Everybody's a safety officer on the fire ground, Joe. Okay, the chief doesn't have to be there to micromanage somebody to put their gear on. Okay, that's one-on-one. Firefighting one-on-one. Okay? So, it's all about keeping the firefighter safe. Those policies, all those first PPE policies, it's basic, industry standard. Ask 100 fire departments if they have those standards. They're industry standards, Joe. There's nothing there that is any different than any other agency.
All right. Going on. Any other discussion?
Can I make a motion that we,
I have a comment. Let's have
After the motion. After the motion, then.
I believe it has to be discussed before or during.
Oh,
When you make your motion and vote, then it's over.
excuse me.
We're not gonna vote, we're gonna make a motion, let Lenny talk.
I make a motion in a second, ask for comment.
Make Rick Gomes the permanent fire chief of the Fall River Valley Fire District, Protection District. I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Kathy,
Okay, I want the board to think long and hard when you work for before you make your decisions as the citizens of this valley. As a citizen of this valley and who you represent, I feel that changing the acting to permanent file chief should be tabled at this time. I do not feel that Mr. Jones is up to the task. Mr. Jones has not responded to any fire calls. He does not attend the fire department meetings. He may look good on paper and talk the talk, but in reality, he is not leadership material.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I do. I want to address, it sounds like you're saying that this whole thing is being done on a retaliatory basis, because you have to follow the Brown Act, you're gonna put the screws to the top of the volunteer department.
I would wait, Lisa, since he's leaving the room.
That's fine, I told him what I said. Mentioning 240 hours of training a year as being too much. That 240 hours a year of training has been in place, for many, many years. That's 12 training meetings a month. That's a monthly training meeting for 2 hours. And according to Mr. Gomes, when we had our leadership meetings and in our volunteer meetings, he thinks we need more training. If you look at his materials here, it calls for 2 training meetings a month, which is 480 hours of training. So what are they talking about, saying that 240 is too much to have volunteers here? We had more volunteers that attended meetings, attended trainings, came to calls, and we had less volunteers who were staying away due to this board overrunning our volunteer fire department that is a separate corporation and has been in existence far longer than this board. As far as not being dressed at calls, according to Cal Fire Chief, the most recent fire we had on Bay Road, there were a couple of people that showed up without gear. It wasn't the volunteers, it was reserved volunteers, one of which was one of your board members, Pat Whaler, showed up wearing street clothes. So, we do have PPE policies. I compiled a chart of them from our minutes. We do have them written down, and we have had them written down, which Mr. Gomes would have known had he come to our meetings. We've had meetings with the leadership and Mr. Gomes. He has come right out of those meetings and said something completely different to the board. He has made agreements with us and then come out and undermined it with the board. So, he is not working with the volunteers. He tells you, one side of his mouth says one thing, the other says another. And I don't believe that he's the one we need. As far as having a full-time fire chief, we had that pretty much with Jeff Folkson. He responded 99% of the calls, I believe, and he responded in the middle of the night. He came to medicals, he's medically trained. Just so the citizens know, Mr. Gomes and the board are trying to drop our responding to medical calls. They're trying to say that we do not have an authority to do so, when the fact is, according to SSB, who is our licensing agency, we do. If you're an EMT, you're allowed to respond according to your basic scope of practice. The only time that you need medical oversight is if you're doing the optional skills, which we are not. So what that means is that there'll be less people in a longer wait. If you have a heart attack and your spouse says, you're going to be waiting. And that's wrong.
Anybody else?
Karen has one.
Yeah, the volunteer fire department has tried very hard to work with Rick Gomes. We reached out multiple times, and he's met with us, yes, but as Lisa noted, he did continue to do opposite things. He doesn't show up, when he just doesn't show up, he's not here, he's not the leader we need. Sure, yes, he does have fire experience, but he's not the leader that we need.
Well, you keep hitting, Rick for not showing up and not going to fires. Ever see him walk lately? Just wait to get a hip replacement. When he gets that hip replacement, you see another one.
Well, I think the comment was valid about it. How's he gonna do this?
Huh?
Those comments was valid. How's he gonna manage to do all this? You read those things and they say that he's in charge of everything. He's gonna pick everything. He's gonna do everything. How's he gonna do that if he's not here?
Well, he's gonna be
He
here.
lives hours away, how's he gonna
He
do
doesn't live
that?
hours away, he lives right here in MacArthur. He has a girlfriend down in Reading, but he doesn't live hours away, he lives right here in MacArthur.
Lives here full time.
Does he vote here?
You can answer.
That's a rule.
My,
Do you-
yeah, my house is in the park.
Do you vote here? Are you registered to vote here?
No,
Then you don't live here according to the law.
you asked me if I lived here.
I asked you, you live here full time, that was what I asked. Where do you live primarily?
When I'm actually working on my service truck, I'm in a lot of different places.
Where do you spend most of your time? Where are you registered to vote? What city?
That's got nothing to do with it.
It does. It has to do with where he is primarily most of the time legally.
That's an easy question.
But this is what happens, we ask questions and we don't get answers. And how can you be a volunteer department if you won't give us a straight answer?
Well, first of all, if I may, that kind of volunteer fire department, okay? You guys are not a department of anything, okay? Just to be clear. A department is if you have a city government, and then you have public works department, and you have an HR department, and you have parks and rec department, and you have different departments, a police department, and then you have a fire department, okay? So, it kind of really convolutes things when the commissioners, the fire district, when it was formed, and that there was a day where, yes, the volunteers, there was no district back then, and the volunteers were the entity. The district was formed, okay? The district has all the responsibility, all the authority. But what convolutes things is the fire department. Well, yes, you're a volunteer organization. I wouldn't say you're a department, because you're not a department of anything. Where's the police department downtown? So, it kind of makes it a little bit convoluted, so.
And what the question was, where are you registered to vote at? What location, not your address, but where are you registered to vote? Because that's where you live, and you still refuse to answer the question. You would wait around the block about 5 times, but you didn't answer the question.
I'm not gonna answer that question.
I guess that means you voted.
These people don't know this, but Rick Gomes has had meetings and these people have been invited to go to these meetings to help set up this fire department.
We don't know this.
And these people that are talking have not showed up to some of the stuff that Rick Gomes has put on. So they're sitting back giving us a bad time, and he's had the opportunity to ask everybody to show up to these meetings, including the ones that are creating a problem, and they're not there. So don't tell me that Rick Gomes is not qualified or hasn't done his job for this district. Thank you.
Excuse me, but are you talking about meetings or trainings?
You,
Meetings or
Yourself.
trainings?
both.
Okay,
You've offered to people training, you've offered to people opportunities to come to your meetings, and they haven't showed up. What more do they want?
Well, okay, because the thing is, some people call meetings trainings, and they're different ones, so, and that, just to clarify that too, so, they don't like the new thing, which is the training hours, okay, but we can have meetings and spend all these times going to meetings, now, I'm not training, I'm talking meetings, so, I met with the captains twice, the volunteers have their meetings, the district has their meetings, we had some special meetings,
Yes.
but we have one training. So, again, training, we don't get enough training in to meet even the minimum stuff, okay? 1 day a month. So, we have time to go to these meetings, but we don't have time to go to 2 trainings a month. So for me, again, a lot of people in the room don't like what I have to say. My focus is training, okay? Training, okay? So,
You already had your chance, Joe, you had your
No,
hand up.
I have another comment based on what's been said. I'm gonna respond to something. There's no, you
Joe
can't,
had his hand up before that.
So, how much you gonna pay the chief?
We're not.
It's a paid position.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's a volunteer position.
Your last chief was paid.
And that's because it was a generosity of the board that we did it. We didn't have to. The chief before that, we did pay the chief before that. But no, it's not really, it's not.
It's a stipend, it's a stipend,
It's a
not
stipend for what they
not
it's not
a
a
paycheck.
position, and he doesn't want a stipend. So,
And I have one other question. Is, Mr. Kenny being paid travel time to and from? Ready?
He's not even charging us to be here.
I'm just asking a question.
Okay, I'm just answering for it. He's not being paid
I'm
travel.
charging you today.
Oh, you are charging today?
Yeah,
Do we pay you to travel?
yeah.
There's your answer.
So, 3 hours at $250 an hour, so $750 without him even opening his mouth to keep you in compliance of the Brown Act.
Joe, you are more than.
No, I'm
Excuse me, let's get something straight here, okay? We've had all this talk about the Brown Act. It's being weaponized here.
it is, I know.
And my being here to make sure the Brown Act is complied with doesn't help business. So apparently a meeting isn't properly called if you're gonna discuss something that some people want to discuss.
No?
This meeting is properly called, it's noticed, people know what's gonna be discussed, it's in compliance with the Brown Act.
No, it's not. There is no
Well,
website.
I'm not arguing.
That's why Joe, that's why we have to pay this gentleman to be here. Because every time we do anything, you complain about it being a violation of the Brown Act. So we are forced into this position, which I made a point at the last meeting we had, which is you can go around to all the people you know that are at this meeting that have caused
Is
this
this
problem.
topic for hiring the
I'm not talking to you right now, I'm talking to Joe, okay? This is a position that you put this board in, and this is a position that this whole fire department is getting in because you did not like what the board did, so you weaponized the Brown Act against the board. Sorry, that is how I see it as a board member. But we have no way of, I'm not going to law school. I don't know the Brown Act well enough to fight against the weaponization of it from you. So we, as a board, decided to get professional help to help us through this. Now, that's the best we can do, but that's what you wanted, not what I wanted. What you want is for us to just do what you say is the Brown Act, do what you think we should do. You know what, here, in a couple of years or a year, there's gonna be openings on this board, file the application, run and get elected to the fire board, and then sit here where we are and make these decisions. But right now, even as Joe speaks today, I don't like everything that's going on now, but I don't see a way around it, and I don't see how we can change anything any longer unless we just all get up, walk out, and give you and your wife and Sarah and Kathy the seats here. And then you guys make the decisions, and we'll leave. And if it works out, it works out. You're gonna have the opportunity to be a member of the fire department or not when this is over, I hope. And I hope you stay on. I hope you try to be a good fire member. I hope we can get along in the future, and I hope we can make this whole committee and board work for the community. But right now, all we're doing is arguing with a small number of volunteers. I say a small number. Okay, I just want to put it out in front, how I feel about what's going on, Joe. We've recognized you every time you put your hand up, and it's just a compilation of the repeated accusations. I'm sorry. Okay, I agree, the community deserves better than that.
Ross?
My name is Ross Jones. I've had a vested interest in this community for the last 25 years. I've seen the volunteer fire department function properly as a volunteer fire department. I charge you to define volunteer. Currently, the state of California is trying to subvert the definition of volunteer. I strongly recommend that the board ignore the state of California and proceed as they have been for the decades before me.
Amen.
Can I answer that for you? Then do you think we should ignore the Brown Act? Which is,
Yes, sir.
oh, you do?
Oh, how does everybody else feel about that? Do you think we should ignore the Brown Act?
Yeah.
I'm asking you with your hand up.
Oh,
You don't think so?
I don't think you should ignore the parts of the Brown Act when you have secret meetings where you make decisions off the thing. Brown Act is so that the
Okay,
people
we never
who
had
pay
a
the
secret
tax
meeting,
on the-
but I just
people
wanted to
like
ask you a
this.
simple question. Do you
So,
agree that we should,
I'm answering you.
ignore the Brown
I'm
Act?
answering you, trying to. You shut up.
Oh, that's a blessing.
Well,
That's a,
so talking over
maybe
people.
that's why we should keep them secret.
So, my comment was, as far as training, I never said, I don't like training hours. I've gone to more trainings than all these people. I've gone to probably thousands of hours of training. I go to extra trainings on my own. And the certificates go in my file. I have a whole stack of them ready to go. I've gone to in-person trainings. So I don't think that that's a fair assessment to say that we don't like trainings. The point is, my point about the trainings was that Mr. Pasternak was claiming that 240 hours of training a year was too much, and he's asking for more. I don't disagree with more training. What I disagree with is the fact that you're putting someone in who isn't here for us and who undermines us, and that's what I disagree with.
Anybody else? Anything else? Jody?
Ron had his hand up.
Okay, Ron.
So, one of the issues here is that there's no cooperation, okay? If you're gonna cooperate, you have to communicate. And as training officer, if there's going to be more training, I should probably be filled in a little bit. If there's somebody wants to do more training, always been open to, let's discuss it, let's figure it out. But I don't see that here. I see more trying to shove down our throat that we're not doing this or we're not doing that. Well, I'm not the most knowledgeable training officer. I'm doing the best I can. And I'm always open for discussion, but nobody's talking to me. So I don't feel that's good communication. And that's the way to drive
That's what
a
we're trying to
wedge.
move toward, to put a chief in, get communication, reestablish a working relationship with the community and the volunteers. Some volunteers will not
Yeah,
work
but
it
that's
out,
not,
some will.
that's not happening because we're not getting communication.
It's just like,
goes both ways,
yeah, just like this thing here.
Okay, we're not talking about.
I've made myself available.
The whole thing.
Most people know exactly where I am, 7 days a week. My door is always open, and I don't get any communication.
Well, who would be communicating with you, tell me?
Well,
We don't have a
wants
chief.
to do training,
Yes.
including the chief.
The chief, there is a chief.
The interim chief you appointed is the one who's not communicating with the department.
So there was a training where I was only just happened to hear about it. And then,
Well, can
people
you-
wonder why I
can
didn't
you-
show is
can
because
you
I never
respect-
had
Can you respect the fact that we're trying to move forward and get that to work again, a better situation?
Well, I'm not hearing that.
Will you?
What I am hearing is wanting to do more training. That wasn't conveyed to me. Lack of communication.
And the fire department does have a chief.
Well, I think a part of that is because we have two different cabs.
Because you guys put them in, you
No,
guys created that.
it's confusing. And the last time I asked you to recite Recido, because you said because of all your training, you knew that, you couldn't do it.
Recido?
Yes, with an I.
That's wrong, it's
With an
Recido.
I,
It's Recido,
yeah,
it's
with an
not
I.
Recido.
So anyway, you couldn't do it at the last meeting, and you say you don't need
I
anybody.
couldn't do it at the last meeting, I
Let's
told you
move
I
on.
wasn't
Well,
going to.
anyway,
let's move on to the topic at hand.
Okay.
We're done on this.
There's a difference.
Are we starting the vote?
Yes.
Iggy.
Yes.
Director Iggy. Yes. Director Pasternak.
Yes.
Director Fazio.
Yes.
Director Bruce.
No,
Director Euler.
Yes.
I have an issue with Director Euler. He was not legally put in. And before Mr. Kenny says anything, he was put in 1 day after this board had the authority to do it. The day the resignation took effect was the 1st of June. You include that day, but you do not include the last day. Therefore, it was day 61 when they appointed him.
Norm, if you don't cut it out, we're gonna have the sheriff.
Go ahead. I'm just telling you what the code says.
Out of order is unbelievable.
Well, the vote is,
All
right, moving on again.
I don't know why the chair would take care of that, but. Let's go on to the next.
Discussion and possible action regarding the information and new application forms for the district volunteers. Presented by Rick.
Yeah, so, if you guys sent, an application process, actually Norman brought it up to me a couple times, wanting a district volunteer application process.
I did not ask about a district volunteer application.
Anyhow, and so, my feeling as the chief is that being as the board, and I'm in charge of operations, even though some people don't think I am, so that I have to look out for the responsibility of the district and the structure should come to the district side. Right now, the volunteer organization brings on volunteers and they have their process, but yet the district has all the responsibility. The volunteers have their policies, but the district has the responsibility and the liability, which then falls on the taxpayers and the insurance. So, as I said, having two entities, you have the volunteers who supply manpower to the district, but the volunteers really don't set the policies and procedures and govern the district. The district should govern how everything works. Okay, now, I understand it's been that way, but there's a lot of disconnects there. And so the concerns I have is, the structure that we have right now, the district has a liability, like I just said. The district is not really overseeing that the volunteers are meeting minimum safety and legal requirements. Okay? Because the district doesn't have any PPE policies, but yet the district's insurance that pays for workman's comp and the liability insurance all comes for the district. Okay? So the five of you are representing the taxpayers. So would volunteer safety be part of that? I would say that would fall on the district.
I think something that obvious is being overlooked. The Fall River Fire Protection District is the district responsible for our firefighting in the area. So you people are elected, you have the authority, you have the responsibility. So if somebody says, hey, we want the district to approve the volunteers, who else would? I mean, the responsibility lies with you. If you want to delegate it all out, which I think is proper, you can do that. But the responsibility stays with the board.
So Rick, is this, application for newcomers, for everybody that's on the department now? What's your idea here?
I envision this as a complete new beginning. Anybody who wants to fight a fire for the district has to start with this process. And the next thing on the agenda would be the structure, the backbones, which is only 18 pages, okay? Director Bruce, talking about pay departments, all that kind of stuff. Some pay departments have a 4-inch thick book, okay? That's only 18 pages. Again, that's the beginning. Okay, so yes, to answer your question, this is a complete new beginning. Will fall in the district. The district has all the liabilities, as Mr. Katie just said, to the
let me be clear with this, or you be clear. So I'm gonna have to fill out an application to fight fire for the district?
Yep.
That's yes?
Yes.
I have a question.
On time yet?
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Anybody else? Yeah, I have one.
I guess if it's good for the
And
answer.
Rick, on the application, I wonder if you would wanna put a section on that about the applicant's experience as a firefighter.
Say that again?
When I look at the application, it seems to me like if I was looking at this, I would also ask them what their experience, if any, as a firefighter might be.
Well, it says,
And if you're happy with the way it is,
well, and then there's spots there for, you know, employment and experience, they could do experience in firefighting along with employment. Now, you know, you have your HR department, which is right up there on the screen, it's basically our LCW, who could, and they received the packet as well. If you have questions regarding that on the legal side, it would be directed at LCW.
Is this a pretty standard application?
Is it a pretty standard application?
Yes, is this what you would find if you were wanting to volunteer at, say, Reading Fire or Anderson or Bernie or?
Well,
Alturas?
probably Anderson, yes, Reading would probably be a little bit more extensive. Shasta County Fire, which is a lot of departments in Shasta County, or districts, very similar. Arcata Fire, their application back in the day was very similar. So I looked at a lot of different applications, they're very, very similar, yes.
Any more discussion on them?
Yeah, I have a question.
No, not yet, not yet. Board discussion, board discussion.
If you wanna ask LCW on this, could they deal with fire agencies and police agencies?
So who is that?
What is
If I
LCW?
may ask a question, Rick. Is there any drug screening going to be connected to the application process? In light of the fact that we're gonna be driving water tenders and stuff like that?
Well, as of right now, you see there's gonna be a background check and a medical screening, which I am still gathering that information. If this is approved and bring it back to the board, because there are costs associated with those, depending on which one you wanna do, which background check you wanna do, you wanna do 50 states or single state, you wanna do, what kind of, your medical screening, there's different levels of medical screening. So I'm trying to get all that information, the cost of each one of those, and bring back to the board at the next meeting. So that's why I put it there within 4 months, because we have to get all that situated.
Rick?
Excuse me, a lot of the medical screening have to do with job-related medical screening. You know, you don't want somebody just have a laminectomy. It's job-related.
I see some things in here, I mean, there's things in this that I question too. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, well, isn't this part of the application? It's not. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Sorry.
We ready for motion?
So just to be clear, Director Roller asked me a question about if this is for everybody. So, yes, okay. So, if this gets adopted, I mean, obviously, the part 2 is the backbone of it, right? If this gets adopted, we won't have any firefighters standing until I review applications. Is the board aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, now,
So you're saying that if we make this motion to move ahead with this application process, this district is not gonna be covered by fire protection?
That's what we said. That's right.
no, we are being covered, we're being covered.
By who?
I have made contact to CAL FIRE, and I made contact to State 13, and they will cover our district if this gets implemented.
Like when? I mean, if we vote now to approve this, are they already on call, or
Well, that's why I'm
have you made a plan for this?
Yes, I already have a plan in place, all I have to do is send a text, and it'll happen, so I'm just, again, that's within the latitude of a chief in a district to move apparatus around and cover each other's districts, okay? Just like it would be the latitude of Station 13 to cover our district when we need some coverage, just like Cal Fire has a latitude to cover our district. So I'm just bringing this to the board. If we make this decision that applicants will have to apply, I have to review applications today while we're being covered by Cal Fire and we're being covered by Station 13. Just making them aware that there's some 14 pieces to this, okay?
So if you wanna fight fire for this district, you have to fill out the application, and you can start today. But in the meantime, you have other agencies that are gonna do hardcover, is that what I'm hearing, kind of, for this district?
And where are they located for, travel time?
Excuse me?
Where are they located? Where is CAL FIRE located for travel time? Because right now, it already takes 10 to 15 minutes for anybody that is on the volunteer fire department to show up to the closest fire station from the time that it's paged, and then you're gonna add more time for CAL FIRE to get here. I agree with that. So you're gonna remove all fire and medical protection for this whole community, not just Fall River and MacArthur, but all of our SOI area. And I agree with Pat, that is not the right thing to do.
I don't believe that's.
I would say you interview people first before you implement that. You get rid of everybody until you decide what is best for this community.
So that pretty well answered my question. So the community will have fire protection while this process is taking place. Is that correct?
The same level?
No.
Yes.
How many firefighters does Station 13 have?
Is there public comment?
No, you're right.
You're supposed to do a motion.
It's time to vote.
Okay.
You can't vote yet. You cannot vote yet. You have not let the people comment on this.
He is.
No,
How many firemen?
No.
And then they open it. But
mine has.
the public has a right to comment.
Right. We didn't make a motion.
Yeah, but this argument back
I
and forth,
lost
it just
it. Okay.
doesn't work.
As soon as Mike gets back, we'll do a motion and cover the comment.
Rick, how many firemen are Station 13?
How many, when right now? What I was told, he's got 5 on. 2 engines and a water tank.
And so there's 25 minutes in there.
How many firefighters?
What is CAL FIRE gonna offer you?
Cal Fire is bringing 1 engine with 3 folks on it.
Are they gonna be stationed in MacArthur Farm?
They're gonna be in the valley, it's in the valley.
Where?
Okay,
I have one question.
It's not.
What has CAL FIRE done for Soldier Mountain? What has CAL FIRE done for Bernie?
Or need to ask them. I have no idea. Are we ready to make a motion? Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'm still a question of this,
Yeah, okay.
if knowing that, is it absolutely necessary to eliminate the members we have? I mean, I understand there's members that don't get along, members that don't, but they're still firefighter members. If they wanna come to trainings, and if they don't wanna come to trainings, whatever, would we not be better off to start this and work our way through with the volunteers we have? Because I have a question about leaving fire trucks parked when there's a fire. I just do. So is there a way to do this? Is there a way to do this without eliminating everybody that's in the department and starting all over? I mean, this is gonna take a little time to do background checks and all the stuff you wanna do, is there a way to do this without eliminating all the members and starting over?
The background checks and medicals is within 4 months, so I haven't even given the board the cost of those yet, okay? So that would be implemented in the plan, would be able to do that within 4 months, so yes.
4 months?
4 months, within 4 months, the background checks and medicals will be completed, because I haven't even presented the board yet.
Okay, but that's my point. My question is can we do this, enact this application, but still keep the members that are available, keep everybody that's a member now? I know it's like herding cats, but it's better to have half a batch of cats in a fire than no cats at all. I mean, is there a way we can do that? That's my question to you, Rick.
I got it, you done?
Yes, well, I wouldn't even ask that question, or somebody to answer that question, Mr. Kennedy.
I think you just did.
And just
Hey, yeah, but you certainly you should approve who the firefighters are in your district. The timing of it is another issue.
So Rick, just to add to what Mike said, so I can get my hands around this and understand, if we vote yes and this moves forward, the process is going to be everybody fills this out. Once they fill this out and turn this in, are they then considered a volunteer of the district immediately? Or is it gonna take time, or is it gonna be a probationary period, or how's this gonna be?
Is that 4 months gonna be effective? Is everybody that fills this out gonna have to wait 4 months to be
No, I would review them today, and if it's 4 months, if you get a phone call from me, then you got 4 months to get the background and medical done, but I still have to give the board what the cost of that's gonna be, depending on which.
So then your answer to me is that if we enact this application process,
Yes.
that everybody here that can fill, this is a 2-page application, very simple. They could fill it out today, turn it into you, and they would immediately be volunteers for this district. They could go, if the fire whistle went off, they could go across the street, get a truck and go fight that fire.
Well, the second part of this is the 18 policies. So again, because you have a liability, I wouldn't feel comfortable moving forward if somebody does not want to sign that they agree those policies, and they're gonna wear their safety gear when they go to a call.
Well, that's fine, I'm not saying that, my question is, if they fill this out today, and we agree that these policies are fire department rules, then they are volunteers. I'm just gonna use somebody, Ron Shannon is a volunteer. He fills this out today, turns it into you, his pager goes off, he comes to the fire department, he gets in a fire truck with whoever else shows up and has filled out this application and goes to a fire, that's gonna be fine.
But if volunteer X only does the application and refuses to sign that he agrees that they should wear PPE to a call, are you willing to take that liability?
No, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that at all, I'm saying if, I understand, I understand, if we gotta agree to, go ahead, Mr. Kenny, you have something to say.
I think what Rick said, fill out the application, and part of that is you would be agreeing, the volunteer would be agreeing to these rules that you can consider next.
So Rick, back to this, and I think it might be simpler than what we're making. Say I get done with this meeting and I voted to support this change, and I signed off on the policy section and the application. You would then vet me, is that what I'm hearing? And see if is there a vetting process to where you see if we're qualified to be, or would it be like Mike's trying to figure out how long does it take? In other words, after this dust all clears today in this meeting, and you have your applications, how long until those people are going to be, that meet your requirements or whatever it may be, are able to respond to a call in this district?
I would say within, well, depends how long we sit here and kick the can in the room. And I can get to freaking getting people applications.
So you're saying hours, not days?
Oh, yeah, why not? How long is it
That's
gonna?
what I'm concerned with. I don't wanna know that we're not gonna have a volunteer
How
for
long
4
will it take
months.
you to fill that out and read it 18
Well, I'm
pages?
trying to get out of you, is there a vetting process, or how long is this gonna take? And it sounds like it's gonna be a mere hour, so by the sunset today, you're gonna have new volunteers for the district.
God, I would hope so. I hope it wouldn't take that long for somebody to read, but it's a two-part thing. Okay, I'm not sure that as the chief, or any chief, would be okay with somebody signing this and not agreeing to the policies. Okay, because if somebody gets hurt, you know, if you read the policies, one of them there is respiratory protection. Okay? Well, that's another industry standard. All right? So we have to protect our firefighters' lungs. Okay, and that's not just talking about fire, we're talking about the helicopter loggers in and out there, we got carbon fiber stuff flying around, you have to wear a respirator, okay, what about an N95? Whatever, you know, there's a hazmat situation where you gotta wear a different respirator. So there's two parts of this, okay? The district, there's a lot of liability I see with any chief, I don't care who the chief is, there's liability on the district. So it doesn't matter what 5 people are up there, the liability will still be the same.
Okay. Thank you for that, I understand better now.
Hey. Yeah, I did. Okay, so I move that we implement the new application form for district volunteer firefighters.
You can't vote on it yet, because
They're
I'm
not.
voting on it.
They're not
He's
yet.
seconding.
That's not.
Motion.
We need to listen.
Why don't you listen to what I'm going to say? For comment. Okay, now it's open for comment. Let's go.
Okay, one of the things he's saying that it's up to him to make the decision, so you're gonna put this decision of who gets hired based on one person who hasn't even been involved with this district, hasn't even really come to fire department meetings, other than fixing the equipment, occasional meetings about equipment, to make all these policies that he hasn't even consulted with the firemen to answer them. In this policy, I read it, there isn't anything for qualifications or training, other than they shall be not less than 18 years old, they must be in physical condition, be able to perform any duty assigned, live or work in the initial response area. Exceptions can be approved by the chief. Each vehicle operator must have a valid driver's license with proper endorsements for operating fire engines or water tenders, and they must conduct themselves in an honorable, respectful manner at all times. There's no other qualifications. How does that make them any more qualified than the volunteers you have? And what organization puts a application in and then puts everything on hold, puts the brakes on everything, and has, 8 firefighters, maybe? Those are, Station 13's volunteer, you got CAL FIRE, so basically you've got 3 dedicated firemen and 5 more who can come when they can, and that's what Greg said at the last meeting. So you're gonna put our entire district and response area of 54,000 acres in the hands of 3 dedicated firemen and 5 volunteers who can come when they make it. And I don't know of any organization that doesn't make any sense to put an application process in the hands of one man, so when he gets to it, then you'll have firefighters back. That's asinine and dangerous.
If we had a 54,000 acre issue right now, CAL FIRE and a lot of people would have to come, okay? We don't have the resources between us and 13 alone to deal with something large. CAL FIRE is coming, okay?
So we won't have us,
Now,
that's the point.
every department, one time or another, when it's made a transition, has made a transition like this, okay? Now, the transition, obviously, I don't care how the transition would have been presented, I'm really not sure that everybody would be agreed, okay? Now, I do see that the board needs to make a decision on how we're going to do this and take over the liability and responsibility and the procedures that run in the district. Okay? I mean, a lot of people said bad stuff about me, you know, I disagree with some of it. I'm not saying that I have been, you know, but my focus has been training, okay? So, we just got mentioned about training. Well, what are the training standards right now? Commissioners, what's the training standards of your firefighters right now?
Have you even asked us? I can answer
Right now,
that.
as we
I can,
sit-
I can answer that
Joe,
question.
can you just?
No, I can, he's asking a question. I can-
I think our training standards were handled by the volunteers.
And this is
That's-
why,
And how,
With us agreeing that they're doing a good job, and we haven't had any complaints. So we never got involved in it. We never got involved in the firefighting aspect from a board standpoint. We always left it up to them. Now, all of a sudden, somebody's come along and said, well, they didn't do this, and they didn't do that, and so they threw everything out. You, the reason I didn't vote for you is you told me you were gonna work with the district. Well, working with the district, one tells me you should have went through all the applications. You should have looked at all the training that they had on each one, and I know you didn't do that. So, as a board, we never got involved in that, we let them do it. And as long as they did a good job, and we didn't have any complaints from the community, we had compliments from CAL FIRE when we showed up and went on the strike team. So, I question this thing here. I think it needs to be looked at a little more, whether we should adopt it today or not. We can present it and adopt it and start the process, but I think we have to go by what we had before. I would like to see more of the volunteer input into the whole thing. I was shocked. I wasn't involved in putting this together. And when I read this thing, it looked to me like, well, Rick went out to Station 13 and got Shasta County's fire program, and that's what he wrote this up. That's what it looks like to me. It isn't something you put together just for our community.
I stole stuff from a lot of different departments and made this, tailored it to us, okay?
I know, but
So, you just got to understand that the way things were working were just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just asked the commissioners, if the commissioners are really okay with all of the volunteers setting the policies that you're liable for,
Okay,
and
what
that's a decision that you have to make. But I'm telling you as a chief, your chief, I see concerns with that. I see liability to the board, our insurance carrier, and the taxpayers. I mean, again, we have people that are coming to incidents without gear on,
one
okay?
of our board members.
There was a process, there's a process right there that, hey, if you wanna be a firefighter, and then the other, we give them equipment, okay? The taxpayers give us money, we buy equipment, we give them equipment, okay? Industry standard, everybody wears freaking PPE, Joe. Okay, you also said that I didn't look through the files. How do you know I didn't look through the files?
Because they've been locked up.
They were locked up for months. And that's another thing.
So you illegally had no business. Yeah.
They weren't locked up for months. They were locked up in the station, but not in a closet. So that's another thing. I went in to go get pager batteries the other day in a district closet in a district station. And the lock was changed. And Dustin Sunday, and James was doing host testing with Bud and Dustin said he changed the lock where we have our radio. I needed a pager battery for my pager, somebody else needed a pager battery, and I needed a bracket for the radio on the new rescue. And I couldn't even get in our own closet.
That's right.
Okay? Another deficiency. Okay, I don't care if they want the closet, okay? But we will take our radio stuff out and we'll find another closet to put it in, and then they can put their stuff in there and put a lock on it. So again,
can't even get into our own closet.
But we're getting outside here. I have one more question for the firefighter.
Hang on, let me speak to what Joe said first.
Okay.
So Joe said we as a board never received complaints. Well, that's BS, Joe. You received a complaint from Clarice White for an engine speeding through the subdivision on Day Road. Did you not?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's complaints coming in. You may not be hearing them, but don't speak to us, cause I hear them.
Well, and Joe also,
And then-
we got a complaint from the ranch Chris works on for the same thing. The truck's flying in there, running around, shouting and yelling at people on the ranch, couldn't even speak English. So there have been complaints. Nobody's free from it,
But I mean, when I talk about complaints, firefighting complaints,
well, that's far.
yeah, we addressed the speeding on Day Road. That didn't go over good because we didn't pink slip him when we talked to him. We addressed other complaints and didn't pink slip. So Jeff got fired.
He didn't get fired. He got asked, well, okay.
He got fired.
He didn't get fired, but that was.
You would have took it the same way,
But anyway, okay, but I'm gonna ask this to firemen here in this building now. If this application goes into effect, how many of you will fill out an application today and be firefighters? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sitting in here. How many of you won't? 2, 3, 4. 4 of you. I'm surprised at you. That's all right.
Some people don't even qualify.
Because this is a total takeover of the department,
By the district.
by the district. So
It's a
you
separate
just
operation.
abolish the department totally. Put it all, and this all started because one person had control and was in too much control, and he got fired. Because he was a control freak. Now you just delegated another one. You just moved
No,
from
no,
one
that's,
column to another.
we're delegating it back to this board. That's what the difference is.
No,
What
you
you're
just
saying.
say-
Hey, Ron, you can think how you want, that's fine.
I want to
Never
make
was
one
with this
comment.
board.
Huh?
I look out here and I said it when I was, my opening speech. The people here are people that aren't baling hay today. The rest of the people, we had this meeting at 9 o'clock on Monday morning. This is a meeting that should have been in the evening after people got off work. When you had that vote, I looked to see who voted and the ones that didn't vote. And we don't have a representation of the department or the community here. I don't care what you say, we aren't well represented by the community or the
Or
department.
you're saying you're not well represented.
How many people here are gonna be baling hay?
Huh?
You're saying you're not represented.
No, I'm saying, you know, you look out there, you know damn well I know.
Thanks, guys.
Don't follow any shit over miles.
I'm just saying, who are you talking about, Joe?
Well, how many
who are you talking about
volunteers are
that's
out
not
here?
What if there's a fire right now, Joe?
Huh?
What if there's a fire right now? It's not between the parameters of a working person?
You can't pull somebody out of a wreck with a coat on, you gotta have your pants on too.
Some of us wear.
You didn't wear it that day.
We have somewhat PPE fire
I
resistant
just
clothing.
asked how many guys would be here,
That's
we had
not-
9 of them
That's
that would
not
volunteer today.
Marlene
I
McCarthy.
have a question.
I talked to him, she called me.
Hold on, we need to make a motion, then we'll go on with this meeting the right way.
We have a motion.
Okay?
You have a motion.
He had not listened to everybody.
You have a citizen who needs to comment.
That's after we make our motion.
I'm letting you know.
I know that.
The motion's been made.
Oh, okay, all right, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
We're in the comment.
Okay, you're in the comment period.
Please go ahead.
Yes, we live in Fall River, we've lived there for 12 years, we own our own home, and, we're a concerned citizen about this. This is just, it sounds like, another government that is trying to go into a small community and run everything according to Reading or Anderson or any of those, when you can't, you have to look at something different. So I'm just asking the board, when you make your decision, don't be intimidated by threats.
By threats?
Threats. We're talking liability, we're
answer your question, we're somewhat intimidated by the threat of the Brown Act violation. We're somewhat intimidated by the threat of a Brown Act violation. And at this point, it's cost us thousands of dollars to protect our district from our own volunteers. So that's a threat that we're up against, and forcing us into a situation like this. I don't know your name.
Alice Robinson.
Hi, Alice, I'm Mike Pastor now. So that was my question, but go ahead. And go ahead. You have your hand up.
Oh, yeah. All about the earlier stuff, I was just gonna say some of that stuff would be repetitive. I know it says you have to pass a medical exam. For a lot of the, Class A card holders, you gotta meet that requirement, it's every 2 years now anyway. So some of that stuff would be repetitive as far as, you know, making sure a person had a medical card. We have your medical card with the, if you have a Class A license anyway, so, I mean, some of this stuff would be more streamlined depending on a person's status at the state already.
Question, so just for clarity, my understanding of the current process that's gonna happen today, if this gets approved, would be that application be filled out by prospective firefighters, including any current volunteer. Those would be submitted to the chief. The chief would take those, review them, and approve current firefighters or anybody else that apply as he sees best at that moment. Goes through a review process, receives approval, and within a matter of hours, there would be a firefighting force that has been approved by a chief under the district as new applicants. And in that process, that's a fairly short time period. In that current process, as that happened, Soldier Mountain is hard staffing their equipment, and Cal Fire would give us engine, which would give us probably 6, 7 hard staff firefighters that go respond immediately to the district, which is better than the current volunteer force we must on an average day for availability.
What? You're saying that Andy and Pat and all the other volunteers, Ron, and,
I listen to the board, not to you, thank you.
don't respond when, the page goes off?
My question comes to the board, not to the members of the audience.
I have a question, so they're on hard staff, these people, what is that gonna cost us? What is it gonna cost for CAL FIRE to come in and hard staff? You say it costs money, they come in to fight a fire, you're threatening that under the MOU, when they come in for fires, that it costs money, so what's it gonna cost to have CAL FIRE?
Can I address this? They will charge anything because they're backing up, Station 13. Station 13 gets help from them for no
That's
charge.
because Station 13 can't staff fully, and that's why they come in
Station
for,
13 has
that's why
nothing-
they call a water tender, let me finish, that's why they call a water tender from Johnson Park, because Station 13 doesn't have the people to staff their MOU response most of the time, that is true.
Wayne, you've had your hand up.
So, I was a volunteer on Fall River Fire Department when Bud was on as a chief. And, I tried to move over to MacArthur. I don't wanna get into all that right now, but I sent in, an application for a volunteer here at MacArthur. So did a couple other people that I know. And we still got no replies or anything on that. So, I'd like to know, I didn't get no reply.
I can address that. They were at the meeting, I can address that. They were at the meeting, they put in their application, they haven't been to a meeting since. They were told, you have not been to a meeting since.
You were smoking out!
We don't get
I don't
notifications
know.
of meetings either.
I don't have a damn
They're not after 911. Anyway, let me
No,
finish.
we're not.
I'm a member of active 911.
So,
They put in an application. They were told that there's a probationary period. They were explained that they have, what they have to do, how many meetings, how many trainings, and that's what's.
and you said you were in charge every meeting.
No, we were notified.
Excuse me.
When Rick Owens let us know, because nobody else in the
The
hall.
meeting is on first.
Let us know.
Hey,
They put in an application. This was like 2 months ago? May 18th? No, not May 18th. He did not. They put the application in, it was, I wanna say June? July?
We got
July.
application the same day you got you and Jones up here had the meeting at the fair. You guys sent in the application, you fill them out right there.
That was August. That was August.
August and April.
Okay, they put in an application in August. They didn't, they were told what has to happen. Robert here put in an application, he's been filling out his probationary period, he's ready to be voted in. And he's come to trainings and meetings, he's met all the criteria. They have not come to another meeting since they put their application
That's
in.
BS.
You didn't have to, can I finish?
Okay.
Okay, let me finish. They put in their application. They have not come, they did not come to the September business meeting. They did not come to anything else. Well, there's a 6-month probationary period and it can be cut down to 3 if you have fire experience. But you still have to meet the criteria during that time period. And it was explained to you. It's in the minutes.
The meetings have always been the first and second Wednesdays of the month.
What a fucking joke. Sorry.
Just a comment.
Said, Kathy's got a comment.
Something was said here, and it led to this, but it kind of, that this board is taking over firefighting in this board's district. When did it ever give up that responsibility? And so now we're having an argument about who decides who needs to be your volunteer.
But it's running good, Joe.
Yeah. Except for all these people who work for one of your board members who come in and stir stuff up and that's all they ever come for.
I still have comments and I was not allowed to speak on this issue.
We're having a
Kathy has a comment.
I think we just.
Kathy's
I
comment.
haven't had a chance to talk, so. I've been waiting, she takes me. Okay? Okay. After being on the Fall River Municipal District Board for over 20 years, I have, the purpose of this special district is to oversee the taxpayers' dollars to make sure that the money is spent on the equipment that the local volunteer fire department needs, not trying to eliminate them and spread around. That is a conflict of interest. At what meeting was Mr. Jones asked to create these forms and operating policies? This is the department, not district's responsibility. My take on this is that you are trying to destroy an 80-year working relationship between the district and the department, making the gap wider. The volunteer fire department governs themselves. They have their own policies, procedures, and bylaws, and they take care of the firemen. This board does not have the authority to make their own firefighters.
This can't even answer that.
Well, we just,
Actually, these guys should ask that.
You guys right here, Jack, are you on there?
You can't hear.
you're here?
Yeah.
The question was made that, the district doesn't have authority to do this.
Not the way it was set up originally 20 years ago.
So I understand there's a question pending about whether or not the district has the authority to have its own volunteers. Is that
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Yes,
Correct.
I'm not aware of any rules of the agency that prohibit having its own volunteers in-house. If there are, as I like to say, I learn something new every day. We're happy to be educated.
For over 80 years, they've had an agreement between the two, the district and the department. And the district would handle the funds and make sure that the department got what they needed. And it worked great up until a few months ago. And I was on the board for over 20 years in Fall River.
I hear that there was a long-standing structure that worked well for a good period of time. That does not mean, however, that there is a rule, a law, a regulation, court ruling that prohibits this board from taking the volunteer program in-house. I remain unaware of any rule that would prohibit it. I understand that it's contrary to history. It does represent change. It doesn't make it a law.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ready to vote?
No, I have a few issues about the form, which are changes that would probably make it better. One, this should be a fire department issue. Let us handle it. You guys can give us guidance to the fire department. On item number 3 of the application, you should say a valid California license as opposed to a valid driver's license, because under California Vehicle Code 12500, you need to be a resident of the state within 10 days.
Should be what? Oh, yeah.
That's vehicle code.
Yeah.
I would also put on there that no experience is necessary. This is a volunteer community. Unless this district is going to pay to send someone to an academy, anybody that shows up, Jerry, for example, had no experience when he signed up. He is being taught. He's not allowed to do certain things until the chief or the captains and the training officer feels he's met that criteria level of training to keep him safe. The department has a lot of policies that keep volunteers from getting injured. Sometimes we don't wear PPE because it's life over safety, and if the individual does not mind because they're not in their proper PPE to save somebody's life, that's also up to them. And I'm using that vehicle accident as an example. If Andy would have put his gear on, it would have taken more time, and that guy either would have been seriously injured or died in that car.
But he happened to be driving by and didn't have to.
Well, we obviously know that there's gonna be some circumstantial differences, what you have to do. We understand that's just life.
Yes.
And I have a question kind of related to yours right here now. These are not locked in stone. We vote them in. They can be changed. I mean, this is, I've only had this for about 4 days and read through it briefly because I've been real busy. But if we vote to enact this policy, these things can be, like he made a good point, you should have a California license. I'm not sure if that's legal or not, but whatever, we can change these. This all can be adjusted, and we can do it with accordance to the volunteers making suggestions and bringing them to us, or you can bring them as a chief for the volunteers. And this is not set in stone. This isn't the 10 Commandments. This is a starting point to get. Am I right about that?
No, that's not what he's saying.
That's exactly what they're saying.
That's not what he's saying.
But
It starts as
what
soon
you
as you
what
pass
you do, you can
it.
undo
No
or change, and would it be expected to do so? You put something in place to see how it works, change it as it needs to be changed. The same authority to adopt it.
And that's a portion of our board's responsibility to change things. But that's what we're doing now. We're changing things, and we're going to possibly change this down the road. And there's going to be all kinds of input from all the members and the board members over the next year probably to get this thing really ironed in to be a good active program for our volunteers and a good active program for our board. I mean, that's what we're all here for, right? Have a good fire department, a good board that works with the community, and a group of firemen that can work together. It's not going to just happen today. We're not going to go all walk out here and kumbaya. We're going to have to work this thing out. It's going to take some time. Hopefully, Ron, in the future, you'll be. Hopefully, Joe can be a good member. Hopefully, Joe's wife can be a good member. Hopefully, we can all do it. But if this is changeable, I hope that satisfies.
I don't have anything wrong with policy, but some policy needs to be discussed with those that are going to be under it.
Well, and that's what we said we're going to do. It's going to be a future deal. We're not going to discuss this for
Then I want to implement it and make it a fact today until at least the board member sits down and has a special meeting that only deals back and forth with leadership of the fire department.
And that's what we're expecting you to do, Joe. Volunteer, fill out your application.
I have one on file.
Okay, and then work with the chief, the new chief that we're.
He's not our chief. He's the
Well, see,
fire
that's
department.
right there.
The fire department has their own
That's the
chief.
problem we have right now. He's not our chief. Well, see.
He's the district's chief.
Right.
The district can add in according to what
Then don't
your
don't-
bylaws
don't be
say.
Then don't be a volunteer. Don't. If you can't work under this.
I can work with somebody, but don't shove them down our throat. That's all we've asked.
Here, I think part of, can I comment real quick?
No, wait, you have a question for Rick. Rick, you have plans, once this is implemented, and you have your volunteers to work with them on policies and procedures, take recommendations, IDs, and work with them.
Yeah, yes, there's still more policy. There's up 18 pages. There's not a fire department in the country that has an 18-page policy. Okay? I mean, there's so much more to say. This is just a starting point. But this is all about, the beginning of this is firefighter safety, where the firefighters know where they fit in the structure. Okay? Now, I'm not trying to, the gal over here said something about, liability. Okay. You know what? I understand there's liability and everything, okay? We can walk down the stairs and break our leg, okay? I understand that. But my point is, we offer them safety equipment, okay? It's industry standard, you wear your safety equipment. The last thing you want to do is get a firefighter hurt, okay? We can't help the people if you get hurt, okay? Now, I have had to get a firefighter in the hospital for a burn neck, okay? Not a good day in a firehouse. So, all I'm trying to say is, these policies and all of this, it needs to be under the district. But you just got that here, there's two chiefs now. So we're gonna run with two different departments. So the volunteers are gonna run the operations, and I'm gonna be in charge of the buildings and the engines, because that's what I was told by the captains. So
That's what he was told by the board.
I know, I was told by the captains. So yes,
We are the board. So,
that's James
Lisa,
White.
you've just domineered this conversation for the
I'm
last.
talking to the board. I'm talking to the board. So, my point is, the question, the million dollar question is then if they still wanna have their fire chief in the volunteer organization, and I'm the fire chief of the district, that really creates a disconnect, okay? Huh?
It's not working.
Okay, so then I guess that needs to be answered right now, is, okay, so the volunteers they're a volunteer organization, okay? The responsibility to fight fire and go to emergencies falls on the district.
I can only tell you what my opinion was when we started this whole thing, that you were gonna be the interim chief until you became the permanent chief or whatever happened. There was gonna be somebody at each Fall River and MacArthur that would work directly under you, and that would be it. But you would be the chief of everything, just like a logger owns all the equipment. He's got 3 side rods, and the guys that run the skidders and fall the timber work for the side rod, but eventually it comes back to the guy that owns everything. We're the board, we own everything. And that's pretty much how I see it.
Well,
And that's the way it should be, and that's how we see it happening in the future.
So, are you guys?
When I was
I
asked,
have one question for you, so that, say it. Is there a requirement in your new policy for all volunteer firefighters to have their turnout gear with them at all times in their vehicles?
well, the policy says, the policy has structure fire policy for PPE, wildland, traffic accidents.
I understand that, I read it, but.
Where's it housed?
Huh?
Your question is, where's it housed?
I hear you.
Where is the
Yeah.
PPE housed?
Are they required to have their PPE housed in their vehicle or wherever they can get to it?
Some volunteers will keep it at the station, because if they're at the house, they're gonna go to the station, get in their gear and get in the apparatus. Okay. But you see, my concern is, if you go to the firehouse and get in your, you should get in all your gear and then get into the engine, and then show up with all of your gear, not half of your gear on, okay? That's a concern, okay?
But you do understand that there's gonna be situations that don't always work out perfectly. I mean, somebody could be on the way to the firehouse, when they get to the fire's right there, and they need help now. There's gonna be times, like he said, life before safety, you make a choice.
Maybe there needs to be a waiver sign that says,
I don't know, we know that there's a ton of stuff here that needs
What's
to be
that accident?
adjusted.
Andy was driving down the road in his truck and came across a burning car, so.
well, that was myself. I mean,
No,
I
no,
wasn't
no, I'm
the
not,
department,
no,
that was
but
just
that's
me.
what I'm
That's just
saying
what
though.
people do.
That's what I'm saying though, he's not, so he's supposed to
But
drive.
we're saying, that's gonna be expected, and I wouldn't, if you drove by me and I was on fire, I'd expect you to stop if you didn't have your.
But, excuse me, Mike, here a little bit ago, we heard about how Pat Oler, who was coming from the Day Ranch, going to his ranch, stopped by. So he should.
I totally understand what you're saying, but we have this big disconnect between part of the members and the board.
But
We just gotta get this thing on
Okay,
one track, and it's not gonna happen
let's
today.
vote and move on.
Yes, I agree.
Can I make comments?
You've had enough comments.
Are you voting on the application or the policy?
The application, just like the.
All right, and the policies.
No,
Not
not
together.
policy.
What's the application?
Just the
That'll be
application.
next.
We're done. We're done. Okay, let's vote.
Okay,
Okay, Director Eady,
Yes.
Director Pasternak,
Yes.
Director Fazio,
I vote yes to adopt the application.
Director Bruce,
abstain. I'm not sure yet.
Director Euler,
Yes.
All in favor? Or it's all? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to number 3, discussion of possible action regarding adoption of new standard operating policies, procedures, and guidelines for districts relating to various district matters, including PPP, district administration, volunteer qualifications, incident command and control, general volunteer operations, and counseling procedures. Presented by Rick. Go.
yeah, so we've already kind of
Covered it.
covered this one.
Covered it.
Yeah, well, so we got the 18-page policies, right? Have you read them all? And
Wholesale scandal.
so first one through, eight, I believe, are all PPE. All right? So basically, structure PPE, wildland PPE, traffic accidents, the OSHA respiratory policy, which is OSHA, so it doesn't matter whether you're a volunteer career, what you are, any occupational stuff that has to have respiratory falls under the OSHA, rule. And then we have the 2 in 2 out rule, which was OSHA as well, and that's basically to keep us firefighters from dying inside of a structure fire and not having anybody outside to rescue those firefighters. So, and then we move forward with the definitions of volunteer firefighter and the qualifications. Each position within the structure, that, again, this could be Mike, this could be, we can tweak it, that was just a guideline, I think I came up with this as a structure. And then we get into qualifications. And the discussion about the driver's license, again, we can revisit that, this is a fluid document, we can tweak some things as we go on. Incident command structure guidelines, that's basically a real brief incident command, who's in charge, it's the ICS, does anybody know the ICS system is ranked line? So the chief doesn't have to run the incident. You have a captain who's running the incident, and he's doing a good job, and the chief shows up, the chief can coach him, the chief doesn't have to take it over, okay? And that's training that I want to bring, that's one of the classes that I want to bring, is the command class, the command series, which is commanding hazmat calls, fire calls, MCIs, which is mass casualty incidents, and so forth, your traffic accidents, all that kind of stuff. That was one of the classes that when I first got asked, to help, those 2 classes were the big ones, okay? And I've been teaching classes at Silver Mountain, I've been teaching classes here. It's all about been teaching classes, I've been trying to bring my experience. So then we get into, after the whole dispatch thing, it talks about staging. Staging, a lot of times you have to stage, you have to dispute, and you gotta wait for the law enforcement. Sometimes, you know, there's some gray area there, because law enforcement may take forever to get there, so you've gotta make a decision based on experience, whether it's a volatile situation or not. I had to make that decision for the sheriff for 20 minutes out, so, you know, you're gonna wait 20 minutes not knowing if something completely dead inside the house. So, again, these are just, you know, guidelines, okay? We got volunteer firefighter guidelines. Then we have general policies. And then we have the counseling policy at the back. So, and it's got all the definitions of the process. Okay, so if you do something wrong, let's say you show up with a fire engine and you only have half your gear on. Well, why do you only have half your gear on, you know? And why do you feel like putting it on? Well, that's not a good answer, okay? I mean, put your gear on, right? We gotta keep the firefighters safe first. And then there's the process. And Jack, are you there?
Jack, can you hear Rick?
There's a bad connection.
Yes, I can.
Can we ask who Jack is? Who is Jack?
He's our attorney.
Okay.
Jack, we're just going over the policies, procedures, guidelines that was emailed to you as the board packet. I don't know if the board members have any questions, but I'd have the board direct any questions regarding the policies and procedures to you.
Well, I have a question then, quickly. If we adopt these policies, does it open us up more for liability if somebody that's a volunteer, if these policies are fairly strict, and does it open us up more liable for if we do something that strays a bit from our policy? Let's say a firefighter does go and doesn't have his boots, but he gets there and has to help out, then are we gonna be liable for him not following the policy? Or if he doesn't do something in these policies for a citizen to sue the department, how does it work with all these policies and under that consideration for our liability? Do you guys understand what I'm asking?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my experience is that the presence of policies and training backed up tends to mitigate the risk of liability. Nothing will fully eliminate the risk of liability. So by having a policy governing a safety subject, having done due diligence of some training behind it, what the entity is demonstrating to the community in reports is that it has a standard regarding a particular safety subject. It's doing everything that it can to inform, in this case, volunteers regarding the standards, and therefore making an effort as a public entity to have the appropriate standards that are true to the industry of this time. Inevitably, when you have employees and or volunteers, humans being imperfect will make mistakes. There could be some liability to an entity as a result of that, but I suggest to you that it's likely to be much less than if you did not make the effort to have the policies and do the training in the first instance.
Thank you.
Jack, I have a question. You looked at these policies. Are these anything out of the norm for the fire industry?
Is the question, is there anything in the policy documents in the packet before the board today that constitutes something that runs afoul of best practices in the industry? If that was the question, no. In fact, the production of these documents is based upon best practices that exist in other existing departments, particularly those that have volunteers or a hybrid employment volunteer model.
So nothing is out of the ordinary is what the question is.
So, you would recommend that we move forward with these policies and that they are standard and not related to our current policies, which are allowing us to have more liability, I guess you might say.
Did you hear Pat?
Substantially, in the current situation, we have real void of some key policies, and that's the point that Mr. Gomes has been making repeatedly. Is the point of these documents is to create a baseline starting place, to establish some basic fire industry safety standards, some of which may have been adhered to in practice by certain members of the volunteer organization. But now that having a singular document in place, provide a foundation for training and a foundation to try to apply those standards and procedures across the entirety of the volunteer function, now under the auspices of the district as opposed to the separate volunteer organization.
I have one more question, Jack. So with these policies and procedures, if a volunteer signs that he read the policies and agrees to them, and say he doesn't show up to a fire with the right PPE on and he gets hurt, does that kind of guard the district from some liability?
Potentially under some circumstances, sir, I don't, you say protect, the term I'm using is that we cannot, through the mere adoption of policy, erase all prospects for liability under all circumstances. But by having those policies, it begins demonstrating to the community, the courts, and the regulatory authorities that we're taking industry standard measures to inform folks of what it takes to perform their first responder functions in an appropriate manner. We're training them accordingly, we give them opportunities to ask questions, and trying to be mindful of paying attention to their service out there in the community. When we see opportunities for improvement, because someone's deviating from those rules, that we can then hopefully correct them. Are all of those efforts going to erase liability? No, they are not. Are they going to mitigate liability? Yes, I believe they are.
Yeah, I understand you don't erase all liabilities, but
We would need attorneys.
yeah, we wouldn't need people like you.
So who is,
This fire said.
Yes, as little as possible. Dave, live well as Dave without lawyers.
so who is the other person on the Zoom, at the left-hand side?
Ryan Booth.
I didn't hear you.
Who is the other person on the Zoom on the left-hand side?
Jack, they're asking who the other person is with you on the screen in your office.
Is my opponent, and you did both the research and less work with Chief Jones to build document.
Can't hear.
I can't
You
understand.
couldn't understand that.
He's a colleague named Philip.
He's a what?
Colleague.
He works in Jack's office.
Oh, Philip.
Is that Philip?
Yes.
Oh, hi Philip, haven't met you before.
Philip has worked directly with Chief Jones and helped survey the policies that exist in other agencies, particularly agencies that have volunteers within them, to help the chief build package before the board today.
Should we?
Board discussion?
Huh?
Done with board discussion?
I think so, I have.
I am. So we gotta make a motion.
No. No.
I move that we adopt the policies.
You can't vote on it yet.
I move that we adopt the policies provided here with the contingency that they are changeable, which we've made clear today.
I'll second Mike's motion to adopt the policy.
Okay. Open for discussion.
Okay. You guys have it set, Mr. Jones is total authority over everything. Whereas the volunteer fire department, people would put in an app, it would go to a committee who would interview, and then it would go back to the members, and they would vote on that person. Now you've got one person dictating everything, who's gonna be accepted and who isn't. And I don't think that's a good thing.
You want to reply from me on that, Kathleen? I agree with you that it's not gonna be perfect, any way we do it, but we also have, let me finish. We also have a situation now where if you get a group of members that don't like somebody in the department, they can just vote them out for whatever reason they can. That's the truth, that's how it works, and if you have the department voting in
Whereas
and
Mr.
out.
Gomes can just say, you looked at me funny, you're
No,
out.
he's,
Okay, so that's,
well,
and
then
that's
at
not
some
right.
point, the board, the fire, the members would come to our board and speak to us about that problem, and we would deal with it as a board, over Mr. Gomes, but we just can't have everybody in the department picking and choosing who they wanna be their firefighter buddy.
It's the majority, a handful. 5 wanted to keep a person, 15 didn't.
Well, as you're referring to a particular situation, I was just talking about in general, I'm talking about in general.
They all vote and they decide who they trust and want, and they need to,
Well, this,
we need
and I
to-
think that's part of the changes we're making.
the bylaws that we were going to do, where we made the district able to hire their fire chief, but then the fire department, the volunteers, could vote in the rest of them. Okay, and so that they trusted who was their direct, and so they need to work together, and you need to go back to that, and the district doesn't need to.
This may work out fine, we're gonna have to find out.
What I wanna know.
Well,
is,
you'll have no fire department for how long? Until Mr. Gomes can get around and say, okay, and pick the few he wants?
My recollection was he answered it would be mere hours.
No, it's not what you said.
Right now, I think,
Is that correct?
And then they
Joe has
ask,
a question, this is where Joe has.
That's the answer.
Okay,
I'm totally disgusted with
at
this.
the last meeting, I appointed a committee to go through the bylaws. And so far,
Which bylaws, the department bylaws? or
district
District
bylaws,
bylaws.
the ones we've been putting off for 6 months.
Because you've
But
been
we
working
haven't
on
put
the Fall
anything off,
River
we've been
bylaws.
sitting at these meetings,
I know.
for hours and hours and hours.
But I appointed a group to go through the bylaws and update them. Should this be included in the bylaws before we vote on it?
I don't think so, because this has to do with firefighting. Our bylaws have to do with the way the district, operates their business. So, I
We
don't.
do have bylaws
And
now.
we do have
But
bylaws
they
now,
do need to
so
be changed.
it just need to be amended.
Okay. But should we vote this in now, or wait till we amend it and vote it in then?
No, I don't think we should, this needs to be done.
I mean, I personally think this thing is gonna take about a year of working together with the volunteers and the chief and what's going on to iron out all the amendments that's gonna come to these 18 pages. Because there's so many things that are gonna
What
come
I'm
up.
saying is, we've got this committee committed. So they go through this and add it to the bylaws before we put this in motion.
Do you think this is supposed, should be part of the bylaws?
Yeah.
Well, I personally, I don't think so. I think this should be just an application of rules and operating department. The bylaws are for the district.
This is policies and procedures. not
That's
bylaws.
part of the bylaw. It will be.
We'll never get through this if we try to stretch it out to that.
Our bylaws now don't have policy.
I know it, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, the department's bylaws don't have policies and procedures.
Yes, we do.
Not safety policies and procedures.
We have safety policies and procedures.
Yes, we do.
Okay, but it's recent because of,
Nope, it's the same ones that are in here. Most of these policies, there's no problem with because they are set by national standards.
Well, then there should be a problem with adopting this. if the
Except
bylaws-
for there's a few things that
And we
need to be
open that
changed
up,
in it.
we're open for changes to things, but I
You need
think,
to
I
change
think
it
we need to
before,
move on
not after.
and then get it straightened out. Excuse me, Kathy.
You need to change things before you pass it, not after.
Sorry.
Lisa,
Okay, actually, okay, so some of these things, I agree with Kathy, you need to
short circuit here.
Speak up.
Because it's a make sure there's nothing.
Okay, guys,
We have a potential.
talk about this later. Kathy's trying to talk, we can't hear her.
Oh, well, okay.
Not Kathy, Lisa,
No,
I did it
okay,
again.
Okay, so this thing has some things in here, there's some concerns about some of the policies that are in here. Wildland, they're saying you can take your pack off, you cannot take your pack off out there on the fire. There's a lot of things in here like that. Medical, very, very insufficient. Okay, I've done infection control, I'm a nurse, I'm an EMT. The way the medical PPE is described is gonna get you in trouble. There is also, there are no, role, no cert for a lot of these things. This is missing a lot of things. And there's a lot of stuff in here that there's a lot of disconnects in this. It's obvious that it was pasted together from different areas. That's not to say that you can't perfect it, but I think it needs to be gone through with the volunteers and Rick and get this set to where it's workable and there are no holes in it. Some of this, you're violating people's constitutional rights in here. You've got that volunteers, speaking as their own person, can't say anything that you don't like. That's illegal. And you can't have that in some.
Where's that in there?
Oh, it's in here.
Well, I may have missed it, I didn't read every.
I read it, and it's in here. I mean, but there's also the side stuff that's right.
What is this here?
How about
But okay.
page 5? It's on page 5.
Anyway, there's a lot
Number
of
4.
other things in here that are disconnects. It's saying extrication, it's saying you can remove your reflective gear when you go to do extrication. No, you cannot. That's your structure gear, you have to wear that. It's also saying that this leadership, scheme in here is very top heavy. You've got, it looks like there's the chief, battalion chief, then there's the captains, then there's training captains. And so who are they gonna supervise? Who's gonna be at the bottom of that? Are you gonna have 2 people under all those people? Top heavy pyramid. And that's not okay. But anyway, what I'm saying is I think that, and then driving, he's saying nobody can respond and drive until they're cleared by the chief. So until he gets through and drives with everybody, they're not gonna be cleared, even though some of us are already licensed and been driving and been cleared by the chief.
Okay, but do you not agree that if we approve this and leave it open for change, that that's the way to do it?
No, I think like any
Then
other.
here's the deal, every time we make a change, or we sit down and try to get it all ironed out, somebody's gonna disagree with another portion of it. And this thing could drag out, look, we've been months and months and months here.
We
trying
haven't
to
done
get
this
this
for
on
months and
pace.
months and
I'm
months.
just saying, you have some valid stuff there, agreed to, but we're just talking about, nobody here working, we're all volunteers, every one of us are volunteers. You know, we need to make some motion, some movement in the community, and then sit down with this and listen. And if you don't think this board is opening to listen, then you've been there, as many meetings as you've been to, we've listened. We've talked and corresponded with you in the audience and back and forth as a board. I don't see why we can't move
That
ahead.
isn't what I said. That is not what I said.
Well, you said you think we should
I
not
said-
vote on this.
No, I did not say what you're talking about right now.
Well,
I
I'm just-
said that I think like any other policy, that it needs to be thoroughly vetted and gone through, compared to the laws, compared to the standard practices. This doesn't refer to any, from what I could see, of the laws, the standard ordinances that you're supposed to follow, which change from time to time. You're supposed to conform those to that. So what I'm saying is, I think it needs to, there's some real problems in this, and I think it needs, my commission needs to be looked at before you put it into place. And I
Okay,
think
I
it needs to be
understand.
done between Rick and the volunteers.
Okay, we're not gonna argue about this, I understand what you're saying, I do, all right? And we're gonna vote on this, whether we're gonna do it or not, if we do, I hope that you've spoken and said everything for months of what you think, and we've listened to you, we've listened to Joe, we've listened to everybody in here. We're doing this the best way we can do it, and what I would ask is for you to support your district board and see if we can't go on.
Do you
Okay?
realize, Mike, everything I say, you have to sit there and defend yourself against, and all I'm doing is talking about
I'm
what I
not
think.
defending it, I'm saying what you're saying has some validity, but it's not like it's set in stone, and we've
It's
talked
like
about it.
Mike clarified earlier with Rick. that this
Andy,
is-
I'm talking to them.
Yeah, but this has solved a lot of your argument he said that this thing's changeable, and in the future, we can make changes that
Okay, and the
look like
problem-
need to be addressed.
The problem is, you can't put something in like that, because then people can use it. It has to be usable, it has to be what you're gonna use.
So I
You
have,
can't- and let me finish.
Hurry up.
I'm trying, I keep getting interrupted. So what I was gonna say is too, is that Mike mentioned that they've been trying for months to put this in place, that's part of the problem. You've been trying for months to put this in place, a certain portion of you have, but you haven't communicated with another portion of your board, you haven't communicated with the volunteers. We've repeatedly asked what the role is for Rick, how they fit in with the volunteers. When they have the interim command staff, we asked that, got no answers, none. And there's your problem, that's why it's taking months.
quick comment.
Go ahead.
Quick comment, from my understanding, this has been reviewed and, approved or recommended by at least one, if not two competent attorneys and specialties in this area. And it is also clear understanding that it is a living document that will undergo changes progressively as need be or adjusted. So I recommend you take the advice of the attorneys.
And when did they all hire these attorneys to do this? Because they weren't aware for a
I have something,
Go ahead. I'll stop on that.
I would suggest that this board, along with the chief, make a committee with a few people, all volunteer, put this off for 1 week, so the policies could at least be gone over. 1 week. We have been without policies for 85 years. What is 1 more week? Vote to table it for a week, come back for a special meeting after a committee of 1 or 2 of you board members, Rick, and representatives of the department. It would save a lot of time for today and iron out some of the issues before this board has to go over each and every line of this policy. I like policies and procedures.
Let me respond.
I'd like to make one, that driving thing, that was supposed to be for new drivers. New driver, I'd like to do a checkoff with, okay? Not, the drivers right now, that fill this out and give it to me in the next hour, and I'm still here in the next hour. I'm not gonna go drive around town for the next 2 hours, okay? That ain't happening. There are already drivers that we'll work on that, if they have some issues that need to be fixed, okay? But I'm talking about that, so we can make an amendment that was for new drivers, okay? Now, did not 2 of you just ask LCW about the policy? And what was their answer?
They're fine with it.
Okay, now, is it a fluid document? Of course it is, okay? But my concern with this is, from the chief's standpoint, is firefighter safety, and that the firefighters know that there's a process, okay? I'm not just gonna walk up to them and say, you're gone, okay? I don't like your haircut today, you're gone. You know, there's a process, okay? Just like with any employment, you know? I mean, but it's a fluid document, and it's only 18 pages, okay? They think I copied it in Shasta County. Shasta County is over 200 pages. Cal Fire is probably, if I had to guess, probably 1,000 pages.
Well, that's why I'm asking why we can't vote on this. If we put it into action, why you can't form a committee with the volunteers, sit down and go over it. At a meeting, go over this thing. Do it not over 1 week, do it over 2 months. And bring up all your changes, and then we'll come to and have a board meeting.
Because some of the stuff violates people's constitutional rights.
Yep.
Okay,
No,
no.
I wanna make a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
And when did we hire those
Rick.
representatives for this?
We ask the attorney if this violates constitutional rights.
That's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah, we can
Ask Jack the attorney, tell Jack the attorney, which one of those violates constitutional rights?
Saying that,
Wait a minute, Jack, can you hear us?
I'm hearing my name.
Okay, could you move, hey, Joe, can you move forward so
Move
Jack
up
can
your
hear you?
document, so Jack, you can,
Does he want me to say so we can see?
Well, he can hear.
no, he can hear you.
Second sentence of number 5.
that a volunteer fireman can't post on social media that defames or is meant to public damage the district. If they do wrong and violate the law, then as a citizen, of this community, we were allowed to talk about it. And if it puts them in the bad light for violating the law, oh well. It's,
Is it a constitutional right? That's what we're asking, Joe, asking.
I have the constitutional right to post the
As a
truth.
person, not as a volunteer. but
As a person. Just because I'm a volunteer should not have any bearing if I am
Can you tell me what
posting.
page and paragraph that is?
That is on page 5, paragraph 4.
Second line, not the first line.
Second line, right at the
The
bottom.
first line's fine, it's the second line.
A volunteer firefighter will not post content on social media that defames or is meant to publicly damage the business, other firefighters or neighboring agencies. Well, it's not saying you as a person, it's saying you as a
I'm a
volunteer.
volunteer fireman. I mean,
So
that is
if you
a
obtain,
position I
if you
have.
obtain the information while practicing as a volunteer, no, you can't put it on social media.
No, but
If
I'm
you were
still
there,
a-
look,
You're
not
not
as a
here,
volunteer,
Let's let the
you
lawyer
can't.
answer. Hey, Jack, can you answer this for us?
You can't hear it.
Can you answer that, Jack?
I'm only hearing bits and pieces of this, but I think, so I'm gonna repeat it back to you folks, and then if I have it incorrect, someone will correct me. It sounds like a portion of the draft policy document before he was being questioned, because it speaks to volunteers making comments in the community, in their function and in their capacity as volunteers at the district. Is that correct?
Well, the
Yes,
second,
I think so.
no, the second,
That's the whole of it.
the second sentence,
The courts have been clear that when folks have a working relationship with a public entity, that the public entity has some rights to shape, limit, and in some cases even prohibit speech on certain subjects in the context of being associated with that public entity. There's even United States Supreme Court decisions on this. I don't know that I want to get into any more detail than that, for fear of it turning into a 3-hour-long conversation. But suffice it to say, when it comes to our rights as citizens, they are always balanced against other considerations. There are no absolute rights. That includes the right of freedom of speech, particularly in the context of working with a public entity.
Jack, sir, I could see if I was wearing my uniform as a firefighter in uniform, degrading the board, but as a citizen, I mean, I was in the military. We were not allowed to speak about certain things, period. Especially in uniform. So, by being at home and making a comment on social media, if it's the truth, it is the truth. Now, if it's derogatory and false, that's another whole legal issue that any corporation or government can take against that person. But as long as it is the truth, whether it defames them or not, it's the truth.
Well, I can't quarrel with the notion that if something is accurate, that it's the truth. That being said, there are nonetheless rules and procedures regarding communications in one's public service. And the rules endeavor to try to hone in on that. I'm not aware of any effort to prevent people from speaking in their purely individual capacity as citizens. But these are among issues that can certainly be vetted over time. There's been a lot of questions, both from board members and members of the public, about these rules. Are they static? Can they be changed? I think I can speak for Philip when I say, not only can they change, they will inevitably change. They will have to change. Because the technology and the notions of what goes on in the fire service as first responders, the rules and procedures surrounding that, and just us as a society, we're in a constant state of change. So everything that's before the board today should be expected to be an organic instrument that's going to evolve over time, input by various stakeholders, including volunteers of the fire district. But there needs to be a starting place. I think that's the point of the package presented for today.
All I'm asking this board is to put it off for 1 week, have a committee,
I don't think
Thank you,
I don't think you can handle this in 1 week, there's too much, I think we've.
It's only 18 pages.
Okay, we've made it, we're gonna vote, I think, right now, and.
I got a comment.
Okay, Joe.
Why don't we table this decision until our next regular meeting? Have Rick sit down with a group of volunteers and go through and straighten anything out that's questionable before we put it into a resolution that we adopt. That way we don't have to come back and fight for this or fight for that. We can get on board, by working with the volunteers, it'll show that we're meeting them halfway. And Rick can meet with them and they can go through the whole thing. We can put it off for, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Gives them plenty of time to cover it. And then when it comes back to us, they'll be in, we won't have this argument.
But I'm gonna explain to you one reason why
No.
we can't do that. If you
They
just-
won't have this argument because they've been involved in this whole thing.
Just let me tell you this one thing. Until we absolutely have you may not have a quorum at the next meeting. That's the problem. Because I'm not gonna be here, I've made it clear for a month now, I'm gonna be gone for the whole next month. There's an argument in here amongst some of the volunteers that wanna work this out, that Pat's not on the board. So if I'm gone, Pat's gone.
No, that's what this letter from John,
And
we did
Rick
everything
and Dean's
correct.
gonna be gone.
And Jay's gonna.
Dave's gonna be gone, I'm gonna be gone, and if Pat's not on the board, that's only leaving 2 of you at the next home. Well, not according to Joe.
He's not. Legally, he's not. Shasta County did not have the authority to approve him.
Yeah, so
Yes, they
that's
did.
why I'm saying that.
Well, let's put it off for 2 months.
Laura, why don't we vote on it, let them have 2 months to work it out, and then we'll have the meeting in December or whenever we're all here, and then we'll go over it. We may disagree with some of the stuff they did as a board, but it's not gonna put anybody in jail, and it's not gonna hurt anybody to have this.
What I'm afraid of, once you put it in action, then they have no say. I'm trying to get with the volunteers so that they are working with Rick.
I think that's been tried for 6 months and
Right.
hasn't worked.
And
We haven't made that much.
I think we implement this because if we don't do this, it eliminates our prior motion, because they kind of go hand in hand. If you have an application, but they don't have to follow policy because there's no policy, what have we done?
Right.
I think we need to move on with this and we can fix it as we go.
Same policies that were in place when you were the chief.
You have someone that's never spoken here before.
Well, Rick had his hand, wanted to say something, I'll get to him.
You guys already asked legal counsel, or HR, both, and what was the answer? The answer of this document was, okay, it's a fluid document, we can make changes to it. But I agree with what Pat said, you're gonna fill out an application and not know where you stand in the process.
I think that needs to be put.
So I take applications and I can just say,
Sounds like
there's no, it's a fluid document. Okay, I make one amendment to that, which is new drivers, okay? New driver, brand new drivers. Yes, I would like them to go on a test drive, okay? Just because they went to school doesn't mean they know how to drive.
The only way I'll vote yes on this, Rick, is if you guarantee that you sit down with the volunteers and go over it and come back with any corrections.
Joe, I have sat down with them, but they also, one of them called me a liar, and I got news.
You
for
are.
Okay?
Hey, that's why it can't work, we need to deal with it.
Hey,
Just
Joe,
like what's going on there.
Joe, I sat down with them, I never called them a liar, I never called them anything, I never demeaned them, okay? Sarah actually has the audacity to say stuff bad about me in my face. Some of them go to restaurants downtown and talk behind my back, okay? I don't have a problem, you have a problem, come to me, okay? Mrs. Antano, okay, she doesn't like me, she just told me she doesn't like me, okay? We can
you answered Joe's question, will you work with the volunteers if we enact this to get it straightened out?
Well, of course, because the volunteers are going to be
Who do you pick?
part of the structure.
So I have a comment about the boards, that here, this is the reason.
We're gonna vote.
Let me comment, and this is in regard to the board, fine. Your bylaws do not have anything allowing you to do this. I think what Joe said, you need to get your bylaws taken care of before you do this, because your bylaws have nothing about any of this in there. Nothing. No, it's
You
what
wanna
it
say
says.
something, John?
The consideration, you guys already spoke on it, is that at some point, there will be a time, if it gets passed right now, there's a time where Rick can sit down with the volunteers and some members of the board and then go over it and then hash out whatever corrections and stuff. You guys already kind of spoke on it, that was just, I wanted to understand that was the other option.
Okay.
We call for a
Are
vote.
you ready for a vote?
We call for a vote.
Director Ag.
Yes.
Director Pasternak.
Yes.
Director Fazio.
Yes, I vote yes to adopt the policies and procedures as presented.
Director Bruce.
I'll vote yes if Rick sits it down.
Director Euler.
Yes.
Unanimously. Okay.
So is this board gonna make a resolution that Rick's to come talk to us and set up meetings?
No, it's whoever
I
applies,
hear what she said.
whoever fills out the application and gives it to him, whether or not.
Let's move on to the next.
That passed unanimously?
Yes.
That's my understanding.
The whole thing.
No, I'm not you. I just take what I give. I just want to get this done. I've got to get moving.
This is boring, bro.
Okay, we're gonna talk about the Shasta College thing.
Nothing to talk about.
Nothing to talk about. So, they did.
Wait, no.
Now we're at discussion of possible for old business.
There's something that needs to be talked about there.
Okay, let's get it out.
Okay.
I asked to put this, have this put on the agenda because there were some questions about whether it was a contract, college or not, for the classes and whether it was approved by the board. Currently, we found a contract signed by the chairman of the board, but, never approved, and we have no evidence it was approved by the board. So if the board is interested in proceeding, by the way, the contract has an indemnity clause that protects the district. So if the district wishes to proceed with that, then they should approve the contract.
What does that have, what about the, handicap bathroom facilities? They don't need handicap bathroom facilities?
I didn't say that.
Okay, well, that's what it was.
I said it was an indemnity provision, apparently it is not ADA compliant.
The indemnity agreement is.
That says that if we're sued for anything, then the college will, it's the college concern more than ours actually. If we're sued for ADA compliance, the college will stand behind.
Okay, what can we do with the college at this point? They have an agreement that's been signed by the chairman of the board. They think they have a valid agreement?
Well, I don't know what the college thinks, but I mean, for it to be binding on the board has to approve it.
So we've already-
Another option is to tell the college that the agreement's null and void?
No, you just don't, it's not, it's not authorized.
Well, let me read what I got from the school district. I did speak with our chief, Jeff Olson, a few weeks ago, having EMT classes at Fall River Fire Department starting in October. He was happy to have the class there. Regarding MOU sign, Jeff says probably better to have Joe sign the paper, along with being the most senior member of the department, he's also the chairman of the board. So, that was dated July 6th, before and Jeff had started the conversation well before that. And so when it kind of was just another ongoing training that we've taken advantage of whenever we had the chance. So I saw nothing wrong with signing that contract. Then I got a letter saying that, yeah, I never brought it before the board. Before the board, just all this erupted. Whenever Jeff wanted to have, or the fire department wanted to have somebody to do training, they just lined it up and we agreed to let them use the building. And so that's why I signed it. Then I got it, and I called, I couldn't find my copy for a couple of days, so I called her down there and got a copy of it. But her letter coming back to me was that they had discontinued it for the lack of teachers. So there's nothing going to come of it. There's no EMT training down there lined up now. So whatever you want to do, if you want to kick me off the board, that's fine with me.
Just say that.
But I'm turning my resignation in effective now. You can carry on. Yes, sir.
Anybody hear that?
What? Yeah, we heard it.
Huh?
Yeah, we heard it.
Joe?
What?
Joe. Business.
Got what you want?
What's that?
You can hear me.
I want vanilla.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that last meeting, last morning, regular meeting, when that was presented, is either class schedule, which is not that far away. I had reached out to Mr. Kennedy to explain that the contract, road contract, or ADA or whatever, we have a lead instructor who has a class starting in 3 weeks, he thinks she has a class. So Mr. Kenny and I discussed Friday morning that we should probably call the lead instructor. I've been a lead instructor in several classes, and if something goes glitch in the last 2 weeks, you have to backtrack and try to find another class, try to find another assistant instructor or whatever.
Did you call any instructor?
I called, see ya, and after I talked to Mr. Kenny, he said, yes, we owe her a phone call, so, because this could not wait for the next regular meeting, that would be after her class.
The phone call was a courtesy.
Yes.
Because if this should come up with the board, it has to come back to the board. So I thought first, hey, look, give her a heads up so she knows, that there's a possibility that whatever, we don't know what the board's gonna do, but let her know it's coming to the board, so she could do whatever she needed to do, she wouldn't be caught short. I don't know what she did.
So,
That was the call was a courtesy.
In light of the recent developments of the, consisting of our board, I'd like to nominate Gary Fazio as our chairperson.
We can't do that.
It's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
It pertains to something that just happened, we're operating without chairman.
Oh, you can do that at the next meeting. Do you have a vice chair?
I think it's Gary Fazio is the vice chair.
Well, then he's sitting,
It wouldn't require a motion.
I didn't know that. You're the vice chair.
Set it on their thing.
the vice chair fills in for the chair and the other.
Okay, I forgot that. I'm getting old.
So I think,
I make a motion that we, there's two parts to this thing. And I make a motion that we officially not have, well, let me start with this. I have no problem with having EMT classes taught to the people that are part of this district, the firefighters, the volunteers that are part of this district. And as far as having people from the public come in to two buildings that are not ADA compliant, will put us in risk of a few things happening to us. And so I make a motion that we do not allow this class to go forward and any other classes in the future that involve anybody from the public.
That involves sending a letter to the Shasta College and.
Well, I don't know what the situation with the college is. So.
Can I comment on something?
Yeah.
No.
Well, we
One of
haven't
the,
had a
we have,
second yet.
okay, all right, I didn't know.
Huh?
We don't have a second.
We have to have a second, then.
I'll second it, and then let's get on, what do you guys say?
Okay, so part of the Shasta College class, part of that, I mean, Mr. Gomes even expressed an interest in attending a couple months ago, was part of it's for the firemen that want to do it, but another part of it is that's the interaction between the public and the volunteer department, and that can gain us volunteers, people who come in and work with the fire department, get trained, get whatever, they get, that's an opportunity for volunteers. So I think you're cutting off your nose to spite your face when you're talking about all this trouble getting volunteers to stop those opportunities. The other thing is that as far as ADA compliance, I'm just gonna make a comment right here that the way you've got this room set up is not ADA compliant. A person in a wheelchair could not get back to that bathroom that's behind that table. You have to have 6-foot turnarounds for a wheelchair and 6-foot pathways.
This bathroom.
That one's not ADA compliant, that's the ADA bathroom.
They both
No.
have.
Okay, but even this one, you can't get a wheelchair through here. You have to have 6-foot turnarounds and 6-foot walkways.
5 foot.
There isn't, that's not there. That's
Well,
like 2.5.
I understand.
Okay, but I'm just
All
telling you
right,
that.
and so that's probably not, we won't change it.
Well, that's why I'm telling you.
Lisa, let me
I'm just
respond.
telling you so you know.
Okay, I think we should let people have ADA training in our fire hall. I think we should ADA training down there. I think we have all EMT training. I agree, okay? But there's a group of you're one, that have said, you can't do this because you don't have ADA bathrooms. We could be sued by anybody. I want the community
It's
to
what the
work.
law requires, Mike. I'm not the one making it up. It's what the law requires.
Okay, I understand, but do
And
you think
keep
that
bringing
one,
up
do you
the
think
Brown
the
Act,
law,
and I've told
do
you
you
over and
think?
over with the Brown Act.
I understand.
All you gotta do is say you're not gonna do it again, but you guys won't do it. You
Listen,
said you want to
let
spend taxpayer money.
me finish. Do you think that somebody won't sue us if they come in and they find out, oh, I signed up for this class and now I can't use the bathroom. There's a staircase upstairs and a
Okay,
staircase
but
downstairs.
to do that class, they can't not be able to take
I
the
know,
stairs.
but I'm saying, if you would take on the total liability, put your house on the line, sign it over for that, and if somebody comes in and sues, your house goes first. Fair enough? You see what I mean? We're here to protect the whole community and our whole fire department. And we need to get ourselves back on track, get these halls ADA approved, so we can do this for the community. I'm all for what you want to do. But then I've also been sitting here for 6 months now being threatened to be sued over everything we do wrong.
Most of the time I'm telling you,
Well,
but I'm telling you what it is, so you can change it.
I
And you
know,
don't want to, you
but
want to change it.
we have attorneys in here saying what you say is wrong.
That we've hired to help us stay up,
That's fine, but the public can still give you feedback, and that's what I'm doing.
Well, and all this would have been, 6 months ago, would have never even been brought up. We wouldn't even thought of ADA compliance. We just did it. But now we think of everything.
Okay, and the other
And
thing I
this
want
building's probably not ADA legal,
not.
the ramp coming up.
Well, you can have a ramp, but it's not the right ramp. But anyway, and the other thing is that you need to realize is what I'm saying about the fire thing is true. We have neighboring agencies who had people sign up for that class, and then they called and said, what am I gonna do?
Why don't you have it right here in this building? Why don't you have it here, in this
Well, we
building?
could have, except
Well,
for,
is it too late to just
it
change
is for
it?
this fall, yeah.
Huh?
It is for this fall, although if this board would let us, we can teach a class through with your authorization for the fire department, and we can do the class ourselves without Shasta calling. That is an option.
No, I'm just saying, I'm nervous about getting drug up in front of a judge because we did something wrong, you know, and like I said, the last meeting, for 6 years, I never was threatened with the Brown Act violation. And now I don't know where to park my truck for fear it's in violation or not. I mean, seriously, I don't. I mean, you could come and say, Mike, your truck is too far from this building. You have to be within 30 yards of the building, and I'm going, I got hired 30 to find out.
But I'm just saying, the first night when I told you that was a violation of Brown Act, and I told you so you could correct it, because it is correctable, and you guys took it to a whole other level, and I don't know.
I think it's both ways, but I don't want to get that argument with you.
I don't either, but I'm just saying that, anyway, I'm letting you know that if you want to do those classes, and we can do that outreach, we can do that.
I would recommend you move to this law.
I would recommend that you consult with our chief, after the proper chain of command.
What we did at the time, what I was saying, this was arranged through our chief, and we did that. We didn't just do it on our own.
But he wasn't worried about Brown Act violations, nor was he worried about getting sued for having an ADA problem either. Because we were all kumbaya. Now,
I'm just saying, for someone to say that I didn't go through the chain of command, I did. Now that changed, but I get that, and he's here right now, so.
All right, well, let's call for a vote.
Okay, call for a vote, Director Iggy.
what's the vote on? Let's get that straight before we vote.
Gary made a motion to, not
Not
approve
approve this class,
the class.
and not approve, or not have any public people in our buildings until we get
I don't know if you can make that motion, you can make a motion for the class that's already canceled and moved, but I don't think you can make a motion in the future without having that on the agenda, just saying.
I would be careful about ADA at all. We don't have a lot of ADA compliant buildings here, and number one. And number two, who's gonna tell you what ADA is compliant? When litigation, you have to hire an expert. Say, this will come and tell you that toilet seat is a quarter of an inch too low or too high. Seriously.
Or 18 and a half
So
inches.
I would advise against a blanket.
Let me change my motion. I make a motion that we don't allow this class to go through. And I make the motion that from now on, anytime somebody wants to do something, it goes to the chief presents it to the board, and the board votes on it. Anybody second that?
That's not on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Yes, it is. That's what it is.
Right here.
It's motion, it's right here.
No, it says Shasta College.
Okay, so I just made a motion to cancel that class.
For anything dealing with Shasta College.
Yeah, the agenda item deals with one.
Okay, all right, then I'll,
Okay, we'll just bring it up and put it on the next agenda.
Along with
That's,
reading of the letters that you guys never
I
read.
make a motion that we discontinue or, reject this class in any of our buildings.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Call for the vote.
Mike, or Director Iggy, sorry.
Yes.
Director Pasternak,
Yes.
Director Fazio,
Yes,
Director Euler.
Yes.
okay, move on to the next item.
This is item I have to put on the agenda too, because there was a Brown Act letter that said that the maintenance worker wasn't hired properly, or wasn't noted, something of that nature. And there was I looked at the minutes, it was later meeting, it wasn't clear whether the board clarified that issue or not, so for the purposes of putting that issue aside, I asked if we put it back on the agenda, so the board can officially act with respect to hiring of the fall river hall maintenance worker.
Are these the minutes that are attached to the, agenda? Is that what you're referring to?
Pardon me?
Are you referring to the minutes that are attached to the agenda?
No,
Okay.
I'm not referring to the minutes, I'm
Okay.
referring to the action of hiring the fall river
So what's your recommendation?
So,
Well, if you wanna hire him, I recommend you make a motion to,
Okay, I move that we hire a maintenance man at the Fall River Volunteer Fire Department.
I second.
So clarification and discussion, is this gonna be a permanent position?
Yes.
any comments?
Well, I have a few questions here first about, the maintenance man is directed by the chief, is that right? Is that who directs the maintenance?
His immediate superior would be the chief, that's the way I understand it.
That's what I understand. and what-
Doesn't say the boss and stuff.
But let us finish our questions here. We have, do we vote totally?
Well,
Okay.
you were supposed to discuss it, Mike, and then have a motion, and then the public gets to discuss it.
So it's a little confusing because we discussed this at a previous meeting and voted on it, and now we're doing it over, so can we just move?
There was, in one of the previous meetings, there was discussion of it, but I didn't see an action, so.
There wasn't an action.
So,
Yes, there was, we did vote, somebody
Yeah,
had
they had-
on the phone.
What you voted was in, at least I was correct on that, was in the, minutes for,
it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Well, this is-
It says, maintenance person, Fall River Hall, Mike Pasternak moved to put Bud Hendrickson as Fall River Hall maintenance temporarily, conferred to research on proper postings. Gary Fazio seconded the motion, Mr. Pastor and Morgan will get the postings from June 15, 23 meeting that was canceled due to someone taking post down. She will provide the volunteers with the posting from the May 31st, 23 meeting that became null and void due to Norman Valdez refusing to leave during the closed session portion of that meeting. Then, I attached as well a letter from Caleb Trotter, who did the website, from Prison Designs. And at the last of that, it says, to remain concerned, on June 20th, 2023, I posted a job announcement for a maintenance position to the Fall River Valley Fire Protection District website. The request for this posting was emailed to me by Jody Morgan, clerk of the board. On July 17th, 2023, I removed this posting at the request of Jeff Olson, who owns the domain for the above mentioned site. It was at this point that Jeff requested that the site be transitioned to the Fall River Valley Volunteer Fire Department. So, we have to make it permanent, is what I.
Okay, so then I'm gonna make a motion that we make Bud Hendricks a permanent maintenance under Rick Gomes' supervision.
A second.
Okay.
Well, we gotta
Discussion, shall we do?
Yes. Would you guys accept applications for that position, and what are the duties of that position? Because the board has no policy describing the duties of the maintenance person.
His duties are to work at Rick Gomes' direction. So if Rick wants him to wash a truck, or if Rick wants him to take a snow plow and plow the snow in front of the buildings, or if Rick wants him to wash the windows in the trucks, to check the batteries, to make sure they're full of fuel, and that when you get there, Joe, that you jump into a truck that's safe.
I understand
Okay,
that.
that's pretty much.
But it needs to be written down, so there is no question as to.
Well, I think by putting him, there is a written deal about it, but by putting Rick, the chief, which in the past, when Jeff was chief, he was in charge of all the same exact things.
I mean, is whoever the maintenance person is, are they supposed to do oil changes, or is that sent out? I mean, basic preventive maintenance, or, you know, part of the building, because that was discussed, that the person that cleans up only does this part of the building, and the other responsibility would fall on whoever the maintenance person is. And when And what application, is it the same application, form basically, and have to go through the background check for the same, application for the district?
He's an employee of the district.
Well, you're
That's what
making,
it is.
you're making the volunteers an employee of the district too. So if you have the same criteria with a background check,
I've already had all that, Joe.
so do we have all that when we volunteered as a fire guy?
Joe, this is the thing, this is why we're having to do all that we're doing now, spending hours and hours and hours, because nothing we can do is ever gonna be approved by you. It's not.
Yes, it would be.
No, wait a minute, Joe, I'm sorry.
You can't speak for what I feel and want to express. You can't say what I'm going to do.
I'm just saying that part of the reasons that you've argued with this is because we have spent hours here today listening to one thing after another, and so I just told you, his job is at the chief's discretion, okay? There's gonna be something come up, the chief needs him to fix a leaky hose, okay? We're not gonna have everything, he's working at the chief's discretion, that's it.
And what criteria did you use to hire him? Maybe there's other people more qualified. Or you just, since he's good buddies of you, it's ignore anybody else in the whole community.
Joe, you're stepping on my toes.
Yes, I don't care if I'm stepping on your toes.
We're not gonna get into all these arguments amongst each other. Lisa, last time, no, that needs to finish, is that on, before budget, anything, we gotta do it the way it is. Okay.
Kathy had it. Anyway, so, what he's talking about, with the problem with the hiring of it was that you guys never put it on an agenda and voted to hire a person to fill Bud's vacated spot before you posted the flyer and before you put it on the agenda. Yes, Bud, it is. It was, yes, it is. It was brought up as a board comment in the March district meetings by Mike Pasternak, and they voted to do it without it being on the agenda. And then then in June, apparently they posted the flyer, but they never had a meeting before that where they voted to put it on the agenda and put it on and vote on it. And the other issue is that she's referring to these July 31st meeting minutes. These minutes, this was a special meeting, it does not say special meeting minutes. And this is actually the first set of special meeting minutes I've ever seen. These have never been approved in a meeting. We never see minutes in the special meetings.
All I'm saying is, I'm asking the board to take corrective action.
No, I know what you asked them to do to vote to fill it, that's the correct action, I agree with you. That isn't what I was getting at, I'm getting at what they're now jumping the gun and making a motion to put Bud in when they haven't even voted to fill the position. That's where I'm at. So,
Well, I was under the impression that we did vote to put Bud in as a temporary, and now we're voting to make it permanent.
but you jumped the gun.
So is that against the rules now?
That's my understanding, and that's what the motion is.
Okay, I call it a motion.
Well, I thought they made a motion to put it on the, they've never moved to hire a maintenance person.
Mike made a motion and I second.
They just moved it and did it.
But they never voted.
You know, right now,
We're ready about, okay.
we vote there.
I'll make a motion to make Bud permanent.
You second.
Director Ady,
Yes.
Director Pasternak,
Yes.
Director Fazio,
Yes.
Director Euler.
Yes.
At this point, is there any, public comment on anything besides what was on the agenda?
Yeah, I do. You had LCW up there as your representatives for your HR department. When did the board vote to hire them for your HR department? Because all you voted in the meeting was to hire them to represent you for the Brown Act. So when did you vote to hire them to represent you for HR?
I didn't say we did.
I've heard several people said, Rick Gomes said they
Nobody on
were.
this board said it.
Yeah, one of you did.
Second. Huh?
all set, but I'm gonna stand by the vote. Asking about that, I know we didn't close it.
I understand, I misunderstood, okay?
So, as the fire department, what are we doing? Oh, I see. Or they want to try to say that we want to. Okay. Well, I'll see.